Hey, it's me. I'm here on a Friday night, and I just kind of wanted to pop in. The hurricane, I know, is blasting the East Coast, so hopefully everyone is okay. Hey, there's Johnny Side, Jackpot's here, D. Dorothy Papineau, and I'm sure there will be more who can jump in as they, good Lord, you think I'd get a haircut by now. But that's what Malia says every time I show up. So anyway, welcome. I told Malia this afternoon that I was going to go live just to talk about various things, answer questions, address, anything you want to ask me about. And, just kind of do a general fun Friday night show. And so here I am. Malia and I went to our favorite Indian place this afternoon, and we shared a chicken tandoori wrap. And at our particular place, it's Nan Cafe in Redlands, Naan. Nan Cafe in Redlands, California, and we really like the place. The minute you walk in, Malia has to endure this every time. I just stop and breathe, and I have to say, pretty much probably the same thing, which she's used to by now after a couple of years, me saying the same things in certain situations. I just breathe and I go, oh, I miss that smell, like if we haven't been there in a while. And it's just that wonderful curry smell and fragrance. And sorry, I actually just trimmed my hair a little bit, and you can tell that I do it myself. And so I have some on my face, I think. Anyway, yeah, I discovered how much I like their tandoori wraps, and the last one I got was medium spicy, and holy smokes, I could eat it. It wasn't a problem eating it, but it was a little spicier than even I like to go. So we got mild today, and it was Malia's first tandoori wrap from the Nan Cafe, and I think she liked it. I definitely think she liked it. So Ryan Perella, he understands. He's a self-hair trimmer. It's the season, folks. I got my Famous Monsters Carnival of Souls shirt on. I got my Frankenstein tiki, which, by the way, is one of the many tikis that our friend Cardinal Sin, Gil Bavel, sent to me, gifted me. I'll tell you, Gil, Megalith, Nick N, Uncle Clockwork. I'm leaving someone out. I'm pretty sure I'm leaving someone out. Well, there's DFW Knights, Steve, who sent me the minis. But all you guys so generous. Well, Gil's the other one. Uncle Clockwork sent me the Hanabu saucer. And my Major Matt Mason. You guys haven't seen Major Matt Mason in a while. Let me go grab it. Wait a minute. Here he is. Here's Major Matt Mason. You guys remember I used to have all my characters. As soon as we get things set up exactly how we want it, look at the fan blowing my shirt. As soon as we get things set up exactly how I want it, we want it. Because it's not just an I and me, it's an us and we here at the Walter Bosley channel. We're going to have, the figures displayed. There's my Major Matt Mason. You guys remember him. One of my favorite toys when I was a wee lad. Here we go. Here's Major Matt Mason floating through space. Ground control to Major Tom. Right? Who is this foolish grown man floating his Major Matt Mason around? It's just so cool. I really like my Major Matt Mason. I got to get Salvador out. I really do. Salvador Dali. Got to get them all out again. It's time. It's overdue. So, but I've got some. I got a book to finish. I'm working on the Esoteric Napoleon too, as you guys know, and I'm finishing it up. But finishing it up means, making sure I'm covering all the points that I set out to cover. I'm adding stuff because, remember, I did some FOIAs and some National Archives searches and requests, so I'm waiting for some of that to get in. And when that comes in, then I got to get in there and add that stuff into the book. And if I have further commentary to expand upon what I get, I need to add that. So, the basics are down, but working on it. And several of you have already got your copies in pre-order. WalterBosley.com. If you want to pre-order the Esoteric Napoleon 2, it is happening. And by the way, I guess I should say, someone asked me, I don't think I've said here, but Esoteric Napoleon 2 should be done and in the system and ready to start going out by Thanksgiving. So, this folks, this indeed is happening. So, go to walterbosley.com to pre-order yours now, because it's $3 cheaper off the cover price right now if you get it on the pre-order. Price goes up on the day after. On what do they call that? The shopping day, Black Friday. I don't have the C60 yet, Dorothy. I'm waiting for it. I got some on the way. So, no, I think I got megalithic, Johnny said. If you were talking about who else, I said megalithic. I think the second one. Well, Gil sent an astounding collection of models. Megalith sent probably. I think Megalith sent the biggest haul of models. Nick has just, he's not just sent me models, but you guys see Nick has sent books and incredible model building stuff. Like right here. Here's, okay, if you're wondering what this is, what you do is when you're painting something like little parts or whatever, you clip them to one of these and they're like that. And, and I paint with rattle cans because I'm not ready to use a airbrush yet. So anyway, Secret Missions 4, the Esoteric Napoleon Volume 2. I've been working on that, and I hit a point in the narrative in one of the early chapters that that deals with a source who, as it turns out, this source, if you had a list of the worst kind of human beings that you could be, he fills 2 check marks. We're talking, let's say the top 5 worst human beings you could be. He fills the box on 2 of them. So thankfully, there are other sources more reputable that I was able to refer to, but this particular guy just, wow. But his work is out there in the narrative, and the frustrating thing is, what do you do if the guy in an independent work on something presents evidence that is worth considering, but he himself has such a reprehensible past that, I don't name him, and I'm not going to name him. He doesn't deserve that. Unless this guy were to extremely publicly, come. There's one thing that it's, probably not forgivable. But anyway, Napoleon 2, Esoteric Napoleon 2. I think you guys are really going to like. You're really going to like this one. Yeah, so there's that. And I want to, thank all the folks that turned up and clicked through the link to watch Code 12. Thank you for checking it out, those who did. I think you'll see that it's a very interesting topic. I obviously am in the film and contributed to it. Seshari contributed a bit to it with his telluric current analyses. And, by the way, Sesh got the painting done. That's going to be the grand prize in the raffle at NimsaCon. So those of you who already have your NimsaCon tickets, you got raffle tickets, you have a chance to win the grand prize, and that is the painting, the original painting done by Seshari for NimsaCon 2024. Check it out at walterbosley.com. There's a page explaining what NimsaCon is. If you haven't got your tickets yet, folks, they're still available. Probably realistically, unless you got a ton of money, I don't know many people around here who do, right? I think we're all in the same leaky boat where that's concerned, but especially if you live in Northern California, okay, or in the San Francisco Bay Area, or particularly Sacramento or near Yosemite, tickets are still available to come down and spend the Friday night meet and greet with us, and all day Saturday the lectures, and the cosplayers, and the life-size replica of a Sonora Aero Club flying arrow, AERO, not like an arrow, bow and arrow, but flying contraptions known as arrows. And and then the next day the tour. It's really cool. So it's not for a couple of weeks yet. As a matter of fact, it is 2 weeks, Malia? I think that's right. It starts 2 weeks from today. Ooh. So, is she here still? Yeah, I think she's here. We're excited. We're excited. We're going to see several of you there, and we'd love to see several more. We've got Daniel List and Joseph Farrell, who will be streaming their presentations but they'll be there with us live. And of course, Alan Greenfield, and then the rest of us, we're there, physically there. Olaf, Sesh, me, Dave Allen. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. So, Griffin Eagle 7 asks, can you read the second book without the first one? I wouldn't. You can. Yeah, I try to write my books where, to an extent, you can, but actually, with Empire of the Wheel, you shouldn't. You really got to read the first one. And I do not believe in doing a reader's homework for them. There's a reason Empire of the Wheel 2 and Empire of the Wheel 3 are each shorter than the first one, okay? Because I'm not going to reiterate everything to make it easier in 2 and 3. And why? Because there's just too much information to deal with, okay? Too much information. So for me to fit it all in and keep the books affordable. See, the longer the book, the more it costs to print, right? And to distribute. So I'm not shy. If it requires a big volume, I'll write it. But when it's sequels, okay, follow-ups, I like to get to the point because, it does keep them more affordable for you folks. So, Griffin Eagle, I'd go ahead and read that first one. Believe me, it just will make it much more. You'll understand more where I'm going with this, and such, and what's going on. Johnny Side says, I think I'm looking forward. Oh, hold on a second, I forgot. I think I'm looking forward to Todd Wood the most after, of course, Walter and Malia. Yeah, it's going to be cool. You get to meet Todd there. He's not speaking, but he's going to be there, folks. He's working on, get this, you ready? Are you ready? Oh, shoot. I wonder if I missed his call. We usually talk on Fridays. Oh, come on now. No. Okay. Well, Todd, if you're watching, anyway, Todd is working on a California documentary. Yes. I hope I'm not letting any cats out of any bags. But Todd will be working on a California documentary in the Bay Area, across Northern California, and he'll be there for the weekend of the NIMSACon, and he will be helping put together the highlights video, which will be available after the NIMSACon. So yeah, you get to see Todd there. And internet hiccups, yep. So anyway, folks, Crypto Alchemist is here. Hello, Crypto. And Griffin Eagle, I didn't properly say hello. XL is here. Myonoceros is here. And others. So let me take a sip from the Frankenstein Tiki. So yeah, here we are. What, about 2/3 of the way? Oh, no, 3/4 of the way through September. Monday's the 30th, if you guys can believe that. Heck, we're almost, 9/10? It's getting close. And then we're into October. Next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, I need to remember, I've talked to Todd, we've moved the live stream to Thursday night because Wednesday, believe it or not, is mine and Malia's birthday. We have the same birthday, a few years apart, but it's our birthday. So Liliana, my kid number 2, she's treating us to a paranormal tour, a big grand paranormal tour of the Mission Inn and its immediate area there in Riverside. So we're looking forward to that because we're going to see the catacombs and other little spots in Mission Inn that we may not already know about. You know, as you guys know, I've kind of crawled over that place a little bit, but maybe we'll do little snippets of live for you while we're there. But so there won't be the usual live stream next Wednesday. It'll be Thursday, and Todd has a special guest to interview. So remember, Thursday we'll send out reminders and stuff. Thursday will be next week's California live stream, and then the week after, Malia and I will fly up on Thursday the 10th to Sacramento. But on Wednesday, the 9th of October, we will be doing a live stream the night before we leave for NIMSACon. So, and I think we have scheduled a guy named Dave Altman, who is one of the producers of, oh my gosh, UFO or alien something stories. Malia, I can't remember the name of the show. I've done a brain dump, but it's a show that just ran on, I think, Discovery, about UFOs, alien encounters or something like that. So that'll be cool. And then it's off to NIMSACon, which is the 11th through 13th. Now, so there's that. Remember, folks, if you time travel guidebook, WalterWellesley.com, and NIMSA, How America Sold Its Soul. With an election coming up in the United States, if you haven't read this one, you might want to go get it. You might want to get it because I talk about, as of the writing of this last summer, the release of it last summer, I talk about people that I believe are still on congressional committees and things like that. But I also talk about the history of how Nimza built the Nazi Empire and then was the hand behind the coup. First, an invasion, a covert invasion through Operation Paperclip. Yeah, I think so. I think so. And then the coup move, the big coup move, was the JFK assassination. Nimza, okay, the dark hand behind the post-war Nazis who really staged an invasion. A lot of people don't know this, but Operation Paperclip was a German idea. One of the Nazi scientists gave Colonel Harry Armstrong and Benson and the others the idea for what became Operation Paperclip. Think about that. Talk about a Trojan horse. Okay. So yeah, I think Operation Paperclip was just that, an infiltration, more than, not really a traditional invasion, but it was an infiltration. And that's what this book's about. I hold in my hands one that's not available yet, but this is called, titled Purple Shadows, Transgender Pulp Tales by Walter Bosley. I write these stories from an esoteric, almost alchemical, hermetical perspective, so don't get any weird ideas, okay? And I wrote these years ago, before the radicals started making problems for, transgender folks who just want to live quietly and peacefully and not be in everybody's face. And there's most of them want to live like that, folks. But that's the problem in America these days. Radicals everywhere you look, left, right, everywhere around you, there's radicals. Okay, radicalism has increasingly turned me off over the years, because most of the time radicals, whatever stripe. Notice I'm not identifying one of the left. The radicals on both sides are assholes, period. Okay, the side that I consider I'm on, those radicals are assholes too. Okay, they're the ones who don't want you thinking about anything but what they want you to think about. Which is one of the reasons why I don't get specific in politics on this channel, because people need a break from that. This is why I like talking about the stuff I research, or different perspectives on things. But tonight I may or may not answer your questions even in those realms. So if you guys want, start throwing questions at me. Here's what we'll do. I'll answer questions, but I might go off on a tangent. Tonight is just me talking night, interacting night. While I'm here, if you're new here, go check out walterbosley.com. Okay. Let's see what kind of new comments we got here. Let's see. We got a question from Johnny Side. What subject do you want to research that you just haven't got to yet? Oh, I like that question. Sometimes you don't know the answer to a question like that until you stumble onto the thing that you haven't written about. And there it is. It's presented to you. Now, as you guys know, I've said this before, and I think you can see this if you read my books. I'm not sure. But truly, with all my nonfiction, one book has led to the next one. Now, obviously, Empire of the Wheel, that's obvious because I'm pulling a bunch of threads. I stepped into a world that was bigger than I thought. And, just to present the things as I discover them. But a series like Secret Missions, my Secret Missions series, which originally wasn't going to be a series. It was just one book. And about Juan Cabrillo. And what happened was, as I was researching for that, I stumbled onto some stuff about Sir Richard Francis Burton and the Big Whopper. That, I had been a Burton fan for years. And I never knew this. And that was when, and this is while I was researching Cabrillo, I discovered about Burton's missing months when he was down in South America. And, my mind was, whoa, what the heck? What was he doing? This is a guy who wrote about everything he did. Okay. The book he wrote about his 30 days, what, give or take, in Salt Lake. Oh my God. I'm not kidding you. That is the most excruciatingly dry and boring book I think I have ever read. It's, well, at least I read it. I refused to read Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. When I was in 9th grade, that was one of the books we were assigned. And I'm not kidding you. I didn't get through the first chapter. I've been a voracious reader since I was since I was 5 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. Okay. I love reading. Particularly in school, if I'm assigned something, the only book I refused to read my entire life as a student was Great Expectations. I got about halfway through the first chapter and I said, no, I'm not reading this. Oh my God. So I refused to read that. It was the first time I ever went out and got Cliff's Notes, just so I knew what the hell was going on. But and to this day, I do not feel like I missed anything. Okay. For me, Dickens is A Christmas Carol, the spooky Christmas story. That, that's enough Dickens for me. But the Burton book about his time in Salt Lake, just, oh my God. So if he'd write about that, he's not going to write about 4.5 months in the South American jungles. A man with his interests. You guys have heard me talk about his pursuit of, Zarahemla information and such. So, of course I was fascinated. So Secret Missions 1 led to Secret Missions 2. And then while I was researching the Burton book, I stumbled into the bit about Ambrose Bierce and the Crystal Skull. What the hell? So, one book leads, to another. But as far as what subject I want to research that I haven't got to yet, there's one that I was talking with a writer friend years ago, and he didn't want to do it. It scared him a bit, and it had to do with I wanted to look into the missing children's mystery, the thing about the missing children's, missing persons, and that interest is what led me to Paulides' books. But his are a little bit more specialized in missing in the national parks. Not that there wouldn't be overlap. I mean, he certainly does not own that topic. Nobody owns any topic. But I wanted to dive into that, and I haven't done that yet. So there's that subject. I would like to I don't know. That is a very good question, Johnny Side. If one pops up that I'm overlooking, I'll throw it out there. Do and it. I fat finger all the time. D. Dorothy says, happy birthday next week. Thank you, D. Dorothy. Ray's Machine asks, any news on the TV adaptation in the works? Yeah, we talk with Melissa Tittle all the time. Folks, the producer who did Code 12, the lady who appears in Code 12, okay, Melissa Tittle, she's the one that has developed seriously a fantastic dramatic series concept for Empire of the Wheel. Now, remember, for those of you who might be new, the Empire of the Wheel series is not going to be a documentary series, okay? It's going to be a dramatic series. There's going to be actors playing the people in the books. There's going to eventually be an actor playing me, of course, a younger me. And so they'll need a really good-looking actor with lots of sex appeal, to really capture the me that I was when I was investigating that. I'm just saying. Somebody's got to say it because no one else is. Anyway, so it's going to be a dramatic series. She's already worked out basically what you do when you work out a concept. You come up with 3 seasons, right? Because it used to be you needed 5 seasons to lock in syndication, and you would do them one at a time. If you got great ratings, okay, you did the next season, and same thing. But nowadays, as you know, things are different with the streaming revolution. What you do is you envision 3 seasons from the get-go. And if you can get a commitment for 3 seasons and they're successful enough, and you make it through the 3 seasons, then you get the equivalent of syndication on streaming. But where it's at right now is she's talking with people. She's had a career. She's worked on major motion pictures and worked for major studios and stuff. And she now, of course, started her own studio, Hathor. We did an episode with her here. So right now, she's working with some new other producers to get they're going to do kind of a teaser scene and trailer kind of thing to get the pilot made. So that's where we're at. We're getting closer to a pilot. Stephen Van Fossen asks, Walter, do you think time has consciousness? No, I don't. But I'm just me, a guy with, a few thousand subscribers and wears his Famous Monsters t-shirt and drinks out of his Frankenstein tiki. How can anyone take a guy like that seriously? But no, I don't think time has consciousness. But let me put it to you this way. And I like to be honest about these things. It's like Bigfoot, okay? Sasquatch, Bigfoot, it doesn't capture my imagination at all. I don't just offhandedly deny the existence of Bigfoot. I think Bigfoot exists, but it's not interesting to me. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, the things I write about are just not interesting to them. The fact that I'm not a millionaire because of my books is testament to that. But seriously, time having, things like this having consciousness, it hasn't grabbed me. I'm not saying it's a bad question. I'm not saying that I know the answer to the question. I'm saying that it's a question I have not asked myself because I'm kind of weird, Stephen, about the consciousness discussion. Now, obviously, I talk about consciousness-driven time travel in this, but I'm not one of those that finds generally the consciousness discussion to be all that fascinating. Guess what? We're sentient. We're conscious beings. You're a conscious being. Deal with it. It's just the nature of our existence. So, it just hasn't grabbed me yet. But I'm not saying it's a bad question or that I even know the answer. Lodjevic 19 says, how's it going with your LDS Mormon transhumanism research? Slow right now because I'm trying to get the Esoteric Napoleon 2 pre-order available at walterwellesley.com right now. I'm trying to get that wrapped up. So that's where that's at right now. But it's not completely dead. I am looking. And Donnie Rotten says, second that, happy birthday. Thank you. And it's going to be happy birthday to Malia, too. We have the same birthday. Now, remember, Ivana, I think, is new here. Ivana, basically, we usually have people ask questions in all caps so that I know you're talking to me. But I didn't recognize your icon and your name as being here before, so we'll let you We'll let you slide a non-capitalized question in. Did you ever find out the esoteric meaning behind the Golden Gate Bridge? San Francisco is third corner in the black magic circle with turn and on. This is stuff I didn't know. This is interesting. First of all, I need to know what the black magic circle is. I could imagine esoteric meanings behind the Golden Gate Bridge, but you're using that wonderful article, The Esoteric Meaning, so it sounds like something I might not be aware of. So Ivana, please fill us in, because I know Malia is going to find that an interesting question as well. Griffin Eagle, yeah, if Russell Crowe loses some weight, I've never been that big, but get him back down to his fighting weight, and a few years back, when I weighed less than I do now, because in 2012, the year I was making Hell's Bells, I lost a bunch of weight in a healthy way, and I was thinner and stuff. And remember, that's 12 years ago now too. I got told that I looked a lot like Jeffrey Dean Morgan. So, they ought to get him to play me. Since Cary Grant's no longer with us. Wait a minute. What the? Here we go. Johnny Side asks or says, saw Code 12, liked it, had some interesting ideas. Yeah, it's fun. And remember, folks, there's some people out there, Walter, how could you be in a movie with this guy and that guy? Well, first of all, you're asked to be in the movie. You're told what the concept is. They don't tell you the whole list of everybody that's going to be in it, okay? And I didn't think to ask. Now, if there had been someone who's truly, truly, truly offensive to me, and I would have been aware of it, I might have backed out, or at least, found out about it later, I would say cut me out of it or whatever. But they would have to be a truly reprehensible person, not just your average asshole. And there's a couple of assholes in that movie whom I don't care for, but I'm not on screen with them. They weren't there the day I shot my stuff, and our ideas aren't the same, so why should I turn down being in a film, about a interesting subject just because a couple of assholes are in it? I mean, we got to get here's the thing. We got to get away from this. You got to, and I say we, the rhetorical we, okay, as a society. Let's get away from this crap of, okay, I won't work with that guy. I won't work with that guy. I won't be in this thing because that guy's in it. Bullshit. Again, unless the person is some type of reprehensible criminal, if they're just an asshole, and I disagree with their ideas, I'm going to be in the movie. So, I'm not saying that you even mentioned that. I'm just commenting because it has come up, I think, from a couple of people. How could you be in something with and well, I didn't even know they were going to be in it, so they don't matter to me. Lodjevic 19 quotes, in 2 generations hence, the Mormons in their present state will in their own ground be more than a match for the Atlantic, and combined with the Chinese will be dangerous to the Pacific states. Who said that? Oh, Burton. I should have. That's somebody to say, you should know that, Walter. I didn't focus on that. But that's Burton, City of the Saints. Yep. If I dug into the book again, I probably. See, here's the funny thing. Burton wasn't necessarily a fan of them. Neither was Ambrose Bierce. I think Ambrose Bierce was a little bit more ambivalent about them, but Burton, yeah. Oh, no worries, Ivana. Send us a link or something where we can learn more about this, or contact us. Ivana says that's very few articles on it. I only found out about it after researching Amanda Knox. Okay, well, oh, the Amanda Knox case. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, hey. Rhinoceros. I find the history of Scenario Club very interesting. Thank you. I do too. And thank you for your $5 super chat. See, I'm saying that more slowly so that I don't screw up, because I said a different kind of S chat in the past. But thank you for your super chat. Thank you very much. As Elvis would say, thank you very much. Lodjevic, again with another quote, that Desiree or Utah should ever arise a free, sovereign, and independent state. Should this event ever happen, it will make the regions about GTS Lake, Great Salt Lake, as exclusive as northern China or Tibet. Well, I'll tell you, Lodjevic, I find Utah, it was, Malia will tell you, their roads have some weird, interesting features. These X intersections, what the hell? Somebody in the auto insurance or auto repair world lobbied for those, because that's insane. I'm sorry. That I am almost 61 years old. I've been driving since I was 15. And I've driven all over this country. I've driven all over the world. I've driven in places in the world you don't want to drive, with idiots behind the wheel and chaos. And those X intersections in Utah are one of the worst ideas I have ever experienced. And I don't care that they're used to them. I don't care about that. But it's just insane. So that's one thing about Utah that's I've never seen anywhere else. Daryl Dothero asks, what's the most difficult book you've written? Right here. This was the most depressing book. This was look at that. It's not very long, but this was the most troubling and depressing material I ever had to get through to write a book. Malia will tell you, this one was excruciating for me because, folks, I served my country for 20 years. And the material that I researched and learned about that backed up the writing of this book was a shocker to me. It was very depressing, but, an infiltration occurred through Operation Paperclip right after at the end of World War II. And the first major action in a coup was pulled on this country with the JFK assassination. And these bastards who, I refer to as NIMSA, the ones behind the rise of the Nazi Party, the post-war Nazi International that Joseph Farrell talks about, along with the bankers and the stuff, they've been controlling our nation. And, it might be during my time in the military and after the military, what I was doing that took me to the war zones, to think that I was serving primarily or really only a military industrial complex. Yeah, that was a shocker. That was a hard pill to swallow. But in fact, I delayed the writing of it. I started to research this stuff a few years before that. I think in 2015 or 16, I even started doing a video series on the material, and I had to stop. I couldn't go anymore. It was just that depressing. But this really has been the most difficult book to get through because of the nature of the material. As far as, just plain scholarship and pulling everything together, I'm particularly proud of the Burton book, Secret Missions to the Lost Expedition of Sir Richard Francis Burton, available at walterbosley.com. I am particularly proud of that because I did a hell of a lot of scholarship on that. Folks, I read source material. I went to 90 some books. I read 70 some of those, 71 or 2 of those, And I reference, as you see in the bibliography, there's over 50 that ended up in the bibliography. Almost 100 books I went to. And folks, I was reading 7 days a week, many hours a day, for about 6 months before I even started writing that book. Okay? That book, I really, colossal effort. And then same thing with Napoleon, the Esoteric Napoleon, #1. Folks, I read about 6,000 or 7,000 pages on Napoleon Bonaparte. We're talking dating from contemporaries of his, contemporary historians, to his days, like Sir Walter Scott, and other historians of his own lifetime, biographers, all the way up through the 19th century, all the way through the 20th century, and up to our times. And let me tell you, that included probably the best scholar of Napoleon Bonaparte alive today, ladies and gentlemen. That's Andrew Roberts. Okay, and this is just one of his books on Napoleon. Okay, I read all of this, and believe me, my gosh, there's, let's see, maybe I'm underestimating the pages. Yeah, there's about 900 pages in this. 6,000 or 7,000 pages of historical research that spanned over 200 years, plus other research. That's just what I read for the Esoteric Napoleon 1, which is what, not the thickest book that I've written. So those were, I'm very proud of those, because the amount of work I did on them. I think Johnny Side, Peter Dinklage, he might be the perfect me. He probably has a larger appendage than I do. And there he is, C.W. Chanter. It was you what, C.W.? Folks, here's the man I talk about in this book. And I was just mentioning C.W. on an interview I did with Codega, Codex of Curiosities. I don't know if it's aired yet, but really cool interview I enjoyed doing. And folks, this is the man right here who has done an excellent series of discussions on the 20-year time loop. Okay, much more interesting than anything that fool and fraud Corey Good ever came up with out of his dumb mouth. Okay, or any of the other fake lying time jumpers. Okay, go check out CW's. I don't know, CW can tell you where they're at if they're still available, but any of the videos on the 20-year time loop, folks, it's legit if you're interested in time phenomena and experiencing the past and things like that. FVGB 342, are we in the do-it-yourself era with corporations firing workers for being too old or too... You win the prize for the WTF. Yeah, the do-it-yourself era. What context are you asking about that? Hey, Walter, you have AC. Oh, you mean air conditioning? Is my fan loud? Can you guys hear my fan? Because I have AC, but this is an older house. The insulation ain't that great, and I'm in the back room, so I get the ass end of what our poor air conditioner can do. We need one of those space ACs like Malia's always crowing about and trying to get us to get here. Griffin Eagle 7, does consciousness go to the cloud in the cosmos like a ring cycle that returns like a string of data, begins with no end? That would make the cloud a jewel on the ring, genetic memory, not reincarnation. I'll address genetic memory, not reincarnation. I think there may be something to that. I've thought that okay, here's the thing. If we can inherit our hair color and the pattern of its growth, if we can inherit our eye color, if we can inherit features, right? Like I look a lot like my dad at times, and I look like my mom's side, the men in my mom's side of the family too. If I can inherit that, if we can inherit that kind of thing, like I have my hands are like exactly like my uncle's. My dad's hands look different, but my hands look like my uncle's. But you know, anyway, if we can inherit that, why not memories? So when you're like I was in 1997, coming home from Saudi Arabia, first time I went, I'd been there for 179 days, deployed into Operation Southern Watch. I took a week in Germany, and there I was in Rudesheim, Germany. I went to the beer gardens, and we had been General Order number 1 when I was deployed was no consumption of alcohol. It offends the host nation. Meanwhile, the fucking Brits and the French, you know, the French, they don't go anywhere without their wine. Okay, we're talking the military. They're enjoying their wine. They're like screw these Saudis. This is our camp. We fought in their general direction. We're having our red wine. I sounded a little Russian French there. But then the Brits, you know, they were like, you know, screw these bloody Saudis. We're having our beer, whether they like it or not. Their beer and their you know, scotch and stuff. But no, the United States, you know, we had, get this, near beer. Are you friggin' kidding? We used to calculate how many near beers you would have to consume to catch a buzz. Now, fortunately, being an OSI agent, we got to leave the base whenever we wanted to. We were, you know, we had carte blanche because we were agents. Our job was intelligence and counterintelligence, so going out in town. So if we happen to know where the booze could be had, we can have it. But honestly, for 179 days, I didn't partake. Not that I'm a big boozer anyway. Malia will tell you I can go forever without having a sip. But you know, after 179 days, you go to Germany, you go into the beer garden, your first day there. And I had an El Presidente in the glass boot, the big, tall glass boot, you know, and I'm like, oh, real beer. And I'm not kidding you. By the time I was half through, which, of course, when you're in Germany, you know, a small beer is still like this, you know, and it's the full punch. You know, halfway through that boot, I was smiling. Yeah. Germany's great. So anyway, there I was. I went walking through the vineyards. Now, if you've seen Elvis Presley's, I think it's GI Blues. He's in Germany. Shoot, I'm doing a brain dump. The actress who was a dancer, Juliet Prowse, I think was her name. Anyway, GI Blues, he goes to Rudesheim because he rides the little cable car, the little silver bucket cable car up over the vineyards up to the big monument on the top there of the hill. So I'm walking around those same vineyards, and I have a deja vu, you know, and I'm thinking, this is weird because I had dreamed of the place 17 years before. And I had never been there. It's a true story. You know, and I thought, was it because the dream? Was it because of reincarnation? Or had an ancestor been in the same place and I have that ancestor's memory in the files there, like we all would, and it popped up? I don't know. So there's my response to genetic memory, not reincarnation, although I still think reincarnation is real. Does consciousness go to the cloud in the cosmos? No, I'm gonna say no. Here's my position, Griffin Eagle. Collectivism is something that those fearful of being an individual, individuated, cling to. The collectivists love it. Okay. I am not a collectivist. Okay. I think the more an intelligent being advances, the more individuated he or she becomes. This, I call it bullshit of, no, man, the more advanced and enlightened we become, the more absorbed into each other we become, and it's just the big collective. Bullshit. I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly. So what does this have to do with your question? Our consciousness is part of who we actually really are, okay? And what we really are. Spiritual people call it a soul, all right? So only if you're reverting, becoming more primitive as a being, will you go to the cloud in the cosmos. People say, oh, but Walter, the cosmic consciousness and the Akashic record, you know, but New Age bullshit. We're talking, here's what I think. Yes, there is kind of a library of data or whatever. You can call it the Akashic record if you want. And yes, we can access that. Okay? But just because we can access that doesn't mean we're assimilated into each other, into some Borg. I just think there's a fundamental difference between people that are individuation minded and people that are collectivists. And I just don't relate ultimately to the collectivists. Okay? I just don't. This is why I reject political teamism and political tribism like the United States is going through these last several years. Okay? I'm in my position. There's a spectrum. There's a center line on the spectrum. There's the radical, far ends of the spectrum. I'm not on the radical far ends of the spectrum, but on the side that I generally fall on, I have big disagreements with people on my own side. And I'm not afraid to. If there's something that they're waving their flag and rah-rahing over that I think is wrong, I'm going to tell them that shit's wrong. I'm going to say that's bullshit. That's BS. I'm not waving the flag for it for solidarity, and the collective good. No. I tend to reject, collectivism, because usually you're being intellectually bullied to go along with someone else's agenda. So that's why I react to things like that. If that comes anywhere near what you were trying to have me respond to. Oh, Gringo Brandino. Welcome, Gringo Brandino. A new name. Unless if you've been here before, I apologize. Everyone will tell you I'm not paying attention to the live chat until we're down to the last half hour. Usually this is a different kind of night. Gringo Brandino with a $10 super chat. Got to get that S chat right. Super chat. And a great question. What do you think of the large object approaching rumors? I've been looking into this. I was just talking with Malia about this today. So far, I found that they are rumors. Okay, that people in our community, the ufology and conspiracy, all that, they just love to. Oh, it's coming! It's a big city. It's heaven. It's the city of the Lord coming our way from the stars. And then we'll have our revenge on the non-believers. They're loving it. The ET, it's all ET people. They're loving it. But so far, Gringo, I found that it is rumors. And so, what are you going to do? Next question. And do you think this sudden UFO disclosure is a psyop to fund a phony galactic war on terror? Yes, but I think there is no sudden UFO disclosure as we know. This is the Tic Tac is technology. It's been technology, our technology the whole time. And anybody out there, some UFO bro douche or, some worshiper of Lou Elizondo and all that crap, mostly people who don't know anything about ufology history prior to 2017, anything they tell you otherwise about Tic Tac being, anything but technology, they're fools, okay? Or they have an agenda, or they're just true believers. So, yeah, there is no sudden UFO disclosure. I do think, yes, starting in 2017 with TTSA's big announcement, the introduction of Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, hey, what's his name? Howe, the SRI Scientology guy. Gosh darn it, I'm doing a brain dump. All that stuff. I called it from the beginning. I was one of the first ones that said this is a psyop. I specifically said, dating back to 2017 on this live show, on this channel, I said it's a perception management operation. Now, is it to fund a phony galactic war on terror? I'm going to be literal on what you said. They're not a war on terror. It's either perception management to back up a concern about a war with China, perception games going on there, or quite frankly, Gringo, I've said it here before, and it's see, I don't always go according to what particular teams are. There's people in this community, people I consider friends of mine, people I like, who I disagree with that there are no threats from outer space, and that the threat narrative surrounding ETs and UFOs is just all a big lie. There is no threat from outer space. To that, I'd say I'm throwing a lot of bullshit flags tonight, but there's another bullshit flag that there is no threat from outer space. That's silly, okay? That's being childish with wishful thinking and hopium. Folks, it's only logical that there's going to be a threat from outer space, okay? There's going to be a civilization that's a spacefaring civilization that's not not going to be good for us to encounter, okay? They're going to be warlike. They're going to come here conquest-driven, okay? They're going to come here and they're not going to give a crap about destroying us, okay? Or kicking our butts completely in a conflict and, putting us under their tyranny. It's only logical to think that there are, eventually we're going to encounter a civilization like that. Come on. The idea that, and I'm not saying you're thinking this, Gringo, okay? I'm talking about other folks. I'm trying to just respond to your questions. The idea that, just because you've developed spacefaring technology, you've conquered belligerence and your bellicose nature, and you would never make war. You would never use that spacefaring technology for. It's been a while. Where's my glasses? They would never use advanced spacefaring technology for war. They would never attack other planets or do evil things if they can get to us, because they're the Space Brothers. And they care about us and love us. And anybody who tells us there's a threat narrative is a liar for the government of the deep state. And come on, God damn, that I just it's not so. See, you open a can of worms with those. You got me rolling, but seriously, I sincerely feel this way, folks. So what does that have to do with your question? It could be that they're already aware or concerned about some belligerent, conquest-driven, bellicose civilization on its way here. Think about what I've said about the Kuiper aerial observatory that I had a personal tour, private tour of back in 1988 or 89 with a then in-law relative who was one of the civilian NASA scientists working in connection with this. And think about what I said about their mission back then was to only once a year or twice a year, I recall it as once a year, was to fly down to New Zealand and for like a month, spend the entire time doing its work. It's an aerial. It was in a KC-135 aircraft, okay? And they go up, and the telescope, I got to see the telescope. It's on board the aircraft. This is now a museum piece, I think, somewhere. But they go, and their mission was one particular area of space that they could only see from the skies down there at New Zealand and Antarctica and stuff like that. That was their mission back then. And what's interesting was it was identified as a NASA aircraft, and this was a NASA mission. But everybody on that aircraft, the day I got the tour, was in military shape with military haircuts and wearing U.S. Air Force flight suits. There might have been a Navy guy in there because, you know, the other guys have to have somebody to dance with. Yeah, so it was interestingly military crew. Remember, NASA is actually a DoD agency. Not a lot of people know that. They wonder, why does NASA keep secrets from us? God darn it, I'm a taxpayer, and why does NASA keep secrets from us? Because, Barney, NASA actually falls under the DoD. They have an answer to type of relationship with DoD. So anything that they see in space or encounter in space or find on the moon or Mars or anywhere else that could pose a threat to national security or the world, they're authorized to keep it classified and report it through their DoD channels. Bet you didn't know that. Bet you didn't know that. So, folks, this explains why NASA means never a straight answer. This explains why NASA might not have told us what the Apollo missions, which did go to the moon. I'm not even going there with the god damned idiots who don't think we landed on the moon. I'm going to get troll shit for that. I don't care. But maybe that's why they didn't tell us everything that was seen up there or found up there or on Mars, because maybe there's something up there that falls under the guideline. But yeah, so I wouldn't say that the UFO disclosure is a setup to fund a phony galactic war on terror. It might be, I think it's a perception, all this crap we're talking about that I specified, this recent thing, I think it's a perception management operation, but it's either in support of a strategy, a war plan against the coming next world war, which I hate to tell you, folks, I think it's inevitable. All of us here are going to see a world war sooner than we want to. It's either in support of whatever the big planning is on that, or they're aware of a bona fide threat or concern coming from somewhere out in space. So it's not so much a phony war. It's, I think, very possibly a real pre-war effort or concern. And if it's not from space, it's world war. The United States military-industrial complex has just been going around doing shitty things and stirring up, you know, rah-rah people here. And there's all sorts of political corruption. I mean, look at the Ukraine. I've said it before, I'll say it now. The demonization of Putin that goes on, you know, politically and in the media here, on both sides. I mean, the people on the right side of the spectrum who I hear, you know, that Putin, he's an evil, rotten guy. You know, those are the people that still want it to go back to the 1980s Cold War era. I was involved in fighting the Cold War, so I can say whatever I damn well please about people who are nostalgic for the Cold War. Okay? I'm no fan of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union were godless, Marxist, communist assholes. I know there's folks who might be here that are sympathetic to Marxism. I get it, but the Soviet brand of it, they're assholes, okay? I mean, you think the Nazis killed a bunch of people, and they did. That's another thing. This neo-Nazi Holocaust denial crap thread running through our community. I wish those people would pull their heads out of their asses, because they're ultimately probably going to regret that they embraced that crap. Okay, those bastards did kill millions of people. Okay, Stalin killed even more. All right, but Russia, since the wall came, since the coup happened, Russia's not the Soviet Union. Yeah, through the 90s, I worked against them through the 90s, both the FBI and the Air Force. Okay, I ran ops against the Russians, the post-Soviet Russians, when the oligarchs were running the country, and it was just corrupt as all hell. Okay, but the Russia today is not that Russia, and the whole Ukraine thing, they were pushed into it by the U.S. military industrial complex using NATO as an excuse to try to get us into a proxy war. Okay, and I hate to say it, but if those kind of shenanigans keep going, it's going to be the United States that sparks World War III. Yeah, I'm saying that, and you guys know I'm a former special agent of the Air Force OSI and a U.S. Air Force officer, and I'm telling you, it could be the United States that pushes the world into the Third World War, so that some goddamn corporations can make gazillions of dollars. You know, ask the families who have lost sons and daughters, or have had sons and daughters come home maimed and fucked up in the head, how they feel about that. You know, so, you know, when I hear people say, yeah, I'm like, fucking idiots. So, wow, what a tangent that was. Look, sometimes, don't get me wrong, I'm not a raving pacifist either. Sometimes you got to make war. Sometimes human beings have to make war. You got to pick up the sword and you got to go kick somebody's ass. Okay? Sometimes that's got to be done in human endeavors. I got no problems with doing it. But it better be legit. It better be legit, because if it's not legit, it's immoral. It's an immoral thing to do, to make war, or to push others into wars that you want to happen because of bottom line, because of money. Nope. Anyway, I hope that somewhat answered the question. But thank you again, Gringo Brandino, for that $10 super chat. Griffin Eagle 7, Walter, would the infiltration not been successful without the sleepers or German American communities? Would the infiltration have not been successful without? You're saying it was successful because of, well, yeah, I guarantee you we know that there were German sleeper agents. Folks, here's the deal. Good. I'm glad you asked that, Griffin Eagle. Okay. There have always been Soviet sleeper agents here. And guess what? We have sleeper agents in their places too. Hey, by the way, the FX channel series from the last decade, The Americans, folks, watch that. That is whoever the guy, I can't remember his name, but the guy who was the creator and showrunner of that show, he not only did his homework, he knew somebody who was in my business. There was some spy tech in there that was specific and specifically classified. There was one night where the Soviet couple that's undercover, their Soviet manager, handler, comes to them and tells them about a particular piece of FBI technology, and my jaw dropped and I couldn't pick it up for hours, because what she told them about was an exact thing that I used. And was just something you didn't talk about. I just thought that was just one of the many technical things that didn't get talked about. And here it is a few decades later, and they're talking about it specifically. I'm like, oh my God. And then there's other things. So there's always, we've been doing this for a long time. Other places have been doing it longer. I guarantee you, China has sleeper agents, saboteurs. Okay, but big time, you want saboteurs to be in your potential enemy countries. The Soviets had their people and saboteurs. During World War II, there were German saboteurs here. A lot of people don't realize that U-boats sank ships off of Long Island during that time. In Georgia, one of the bakeries, which I think still exists today, they were observed and caught taking food supplies, bread, vegetables, and that stuff out to U-boats, like at midnight in the under cover of darkness, out to U-boats to give food to the crews, the U-boat crews. And this is an American, German-owned probably, but an American bakery in Georgia doing this. So, a lot of Americans don't know this. Any infiltration is always made easier when you have your sleeper cells and your sleeper agents in country. So, but here's the thing. I think in this particular case with Operation Paperclip, the sleepers were not like, a guy working at a bakery, or a guy who's a butcher in Houston, or a guy who, is a truck driver in Milwaukee. These would be people who were connected to Congress somehow. They were lobbyists, that kind of thing. Or if they weren't that, they were involved with compromising U.S. congressmen to get them to go along. No, CW, it's not a work of plagiarism. This is my work, baby. But I refer to you because your 20-year time loop is an outstanding idea. Hey, Joseph Farrell's here. As usual, I suspect I'm late. Well, it was an unscheduled one, so nobody's really late. Blue chickens, nothing but blue chickens. That's right. That's right. So remember, folks, all caps if you want me to address it. FVGBE342 again. I see my favorite comic book authors being fired from Marvel, DC. They crowdfund their book. You're self-publishing. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. Well, no, that term self-publishing, by default, yes, I publish myself, but I started a company in 2002. As you can see right here on the screen, the name of that company is Lost Continent Library. And I published 2 other authors before I published anything of my own, and then 2 additional other authors after me. I've published almost 10 other authors over the years, and I still publish Secherie. I'm doing reprints on Joseph Farrell's original Giza Death Star trilogy. I'm a legitimate publishing company in the sense that I didn't start a label just to publish my own stuff. I've published other authors throughout that, now 22 years that I've been in business. But I'm not saying you implied anything. There's people out there, oh, he's a self-publisher. Those are graybeards who remember the days. Joseph will tell you, remember the days of the vanity presses. And that was not a good thing because they would rip people off. They would make writers who couldn't, get published elsewhere. They would make them pay to get their books published. I don't do that. Never have. Nobody's ever paid me a dime to be published under my label. But yeah, I wanted to start. The original concept was I wanted to start a magazine, and then I decided make a publishing label. And the industry has changed. That it's not the same as it used to be in the vanity press days. There's no shame in publishing under your own label. It's the quality of what you do and your scholarship. But you're right. I've seen that too. The comic book authors over ridiculous things being fired. And yeah, they go out and they crowdfund the stuff they're doing. And some of them are having, pretty good success at it because their fans are getting tired of the big companies, Marvel and DC. They went woke and all that shit. And, they're rightfully paying for it, as they should. It should be painful for them so that they get back to what they're supposed to be doing, what people want, I should say. That's entertainment. Michael Sable. A lot of your work seems to point to a long tradition of secret knowledge, and it seems like a lot of world history can be seen as how those secrets have been passed down, transmitted. Yeah, the unreported, the hidden, the secret, things out there in history and in our world intrigue me because, a lot of people want to understand what's really been going on, or what the real deal is, and that's where you're going to find, you're going to come closest to the truth when you also look and see what's been kept from us. Oh, here we go. Ryan Osiris with I think another super chat. Thank you. $5 super chat. Asking, wait a second, Walter, are you telling me David Wilcock isn't the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce? I'm sorry. No, he's not. He's not. Have you guys ever seen, I know some of you graybeards out there are going to remember National Lampoon magazine, right? Now, National Lampoon, like Mad Magazine in its golden era, was just perfection, okay? Mad Magazine took a dump by the 80s, but I mean, late 60s, early to mid 70s, it was, National Lampoon, the same thing. National Lampoon used to have this ongoing little piece called There Are Only 42 People in the World. And they would take pictures of famous people, side-by-side photos, where these people look identical. Like, I remember one of the hilarious ones was Don Knotts and Mick Jagger. And they took a picture of Don Knotts from Incredible Mr. Limpet with his face turned a certain way. And they took a picture of Mick Jagger. And I kid you not, they look like they have the exact same facial structure. One of the funniest ones was, oh my God, they took a photo of Lyndon Johnson and Golda Meir. And they were identical. You would have thought that Golda Meir was Lyndon Johnson in drag. Now, for you young folks who don't know who Golda Meir was, M-E-I-R is how you spell her name. Okay, she was a prime minister of Israel, I think. But the point is, they were showing that there's only so many face designs and stuff, right? So David Wilcock just happens to come from genetics where there's similarities to Edgar Cayce, and he tried to make hay out of it, and he did for a while because there's a bunch of idiots who threw money at him, for these silly things. Griffin Eagle 7. Yep, Walter, reincarnation cuts the cycle. I believe genetic memory is or plays a resonance when we sleep. Yeah, that's the gift those miss when the lie takes a fictional fact. Bigger lie. Okay. Yeah, and here's the thing. I think genetic memory and reincarnation can coexist. Now, Joseph Farrell can tell you, he's got a really interesting, we had a discussion on reincarnation once, and I like Joseph's take on that it isn't exactly the you, it's a reiteration of you, right? Because we are, Joseph, you missed, I was going off on my rant about individuation versus collectivism, and how the more advanced we become, the more individuated we are as beings. What people get confused with collectivism is the more advanced we become spiritually as we individuate, at the same time as we advance, we generally become more sympathetic, empathetic, compassionate to others. Okay? And people confuse that with being assimilated into some kind of Borg. Oh, if I have compassion for others, I must be assimilated into a big glob with them. No. No, this is the very definition of advancement of your soul on the spiritual level. The more individuated you become, the more you need to have compassion for others, right? Because you're individuated, but it's that compassion and sympathy and empathy for other human beings that keeps you from becoming a narcissistic monster, okay? But as you become more individuated, I think you experience, I don't want to use the word loneliness, but you experience, you feel the individuation, the moving away from the whatever emotional, psycho-emotional bond you have with others. So that compassion, that empathy that you develop becomes even more important. But you are, by gosh, an individual. Okay, you're not a similar. I just, to me, it's a step backwards to think that, oh, the more advanced we become, the more mashed together with all the others that we become. No. I would disagree with the assimilation. So, thank you, Joseph, because we've had talks on this, and Joseph has talked about it, elsewhere. Which Marvel team is better, Avengers or X-Men? 342. I'm glad you asked that, because it's thematically with what I was just saying about individuation versus collectivism. I prefer the Avengers. Why? The X-Men, they all live in the same, they don't, you know what I mean? They all start in the, they live in Dr. Xavier's mansion, his estate, right? They all wear the same uniform, okay? I'm not talking about the movies. Go to the comics. They wear the same uniform, okay? It's team all the time. Forget, I know the movies, but team all the time. They're assimilated. The Avengers, they don't all wear the same clothes. And unless there's a threat where they need to come together, they're off doing their individual things. Notice the difference? The Avengers are a bunch of individuals who come together when it's necessary to come together. And sometimes it's necessary to come together. But when the threat is quashed and they've done their job, they get the hell away from each other. They got their own lives, their own things. They're off doing their own hero things. Whereas the X-Men, so really, the way I look at it is, what I think's going on is your collectivists among us, they're the folks who prefer the X-Men, and your individuals among us, they're the ones who prefer the Avengers. That's just my take on that. CW, I think you're misunderstanding the interpretation of ego. The more you become individuated, and the collectivists just can't understand this. They can't comprehend this. They're like, no, it can't be. It's impossible. But the more you become individuated, and that compassion and that empathy for your other individual fellow man grows, okay? That softens the ego. See, the whole idea that, oh, the individuation is all about your ego. You know who came up with that? The collectivists. It's the same thing as the invention of hell in medieval Christianity. Oh, if you don't do what our guy says, you don't do what the rules of our little club are, you're going to hell. The collectivist bullshit is the same thing. Oh, wait a minute. Any expression of individuality is your ego, and that's bad. Oh, no. Any expression of individuality is ego. And ego, so all this ego game crap is equivalent to the medieval Christian invention of hell. It's just a control device used to keep people collectivism. Okay, I am a much better, not that I was bad, but I am a much more compassionate as a parent, as being relationship. And no, you love better as you become an individuated being. You love better, deeper, and with more clear understanding of what love, and I'm not talking just romantic love, okay? That's an invention of Hallmark. The real, true love on all levels, you understand it better, you become better, a more loving being, the more you're enlightened. And the more you're enlightened, that comes with individuation and embracing your individuality and having the courage to be an individual. See, that's the other thing. Collectivism is an expression of the fear, the inner fear. They're afraid to be an individual. Okay? And so they come up with all these games. Oh, it's your ego if you're an individual. Oh, you're just scared to love. No, CW. Wrong. You got it backwards. The more you truly individuate and truly understand yourself on the spiritual level and every other thing as the individual that you were designed and intended to develop as, the less of a ego you possess, okay, and the greater capacity you have to actually love your fellow man. Only the collectivists won't let themselves consider that. Anyway. Griffin Eagle 7. Walter, without the hippy drippy, a collective is expressed as a cloud and software, but how about a roundtable meeting place, a place where entities would meet? Oh, yeah, because what is that? That's a coming together of individual minds, you know, and what is, I'm sorry, I'll take a coming together of individuals who learned where they agree and to come together in agreement on something. I'll take that over rote assimilation any day. Any day. Hal Putoff, thank you, Ray's Machine. Wow, I'm really behind on the. I started at 6:55, Joseph. Oh, wow, I'm really behind. Sorry, folks, I'm trying to catch up. Here we have Adam Talamantes. Welcome, Adam. I don't recognize the name. Again, remember, I'm not usually into the live chat from the get-go. Adam asks, hi, Walter. Have you had any recent contact with Nathan Isaac? Enjoyed your interview on second season of Penny Royal. Interesting similarities between what they've researched and your Empire of the Wheel. No, I haven't. I haven't been back on that in a while. I they go in directions and, but Richard Spence, my co-author on the first Empire of the Wheel book, has been on there more than me. So. Why is what a logical conclusion? Remember, folks, all caps if you want me to respond or see it. FVGB 342. I can't handle the truth from my family, let alone truth from NASA. I'm going to scroll through here and catch up, folks. Yeah, I'll go get the nurse. Ivana, we had boons across the U.S. Yes, we did. Long Island had a big one. And Joseph, what I was referring to specifically was, if you remember, when the female handler, that great actress, middle-aged actress with the red hair, she's always awesome in everything she's in. She came to them to tell them about the new radios that the FBI were using for agent communication. It's been 35 years. I had one in the trunk of my car. That's the kind of radio that I used every day for a little while. Gringo Brandino, my gosh, another $10 super chat. Thank you. I have to stop myself and say super chat carefully because I have said the other S chat. That raises eyebrows. He said the other S chat. What's your best guess on what's hidden in Antarctica? Oh, an Antarctica question. It makes no sense that the U.S. didn't take all of it post-World War II instead of signing the Antarctic Treaty, considering the endless natural resources there. Okay. My best guess, I'll tell you what's not hidden in Antarctica, a Nazi flying saucer base. Okay? You can just throw that one out the window. That's ridiculous. They would not have had the technological resources to sustain something like that. Submarine pens? Yes, of course. Outposts? Of course. But as far as what's hidden, that's the Nazi thing. As far as what's hidden, primarily, I think that what happened with Antarctica was before an Earth, a planetary shift, that continent was not at the pole and it was not covered in ice. And whatever civilization existed and populated that particular continent at the time before the shift, I think the ruins and remains of whatever civilization that was is what's under the ice there. And I think that's what's physically hidden by the elements, but also whatever extent they know that, of this, it's not being revealed to us. And that's a whole other discussion that's very interesting. I have heard stories over the years, but if you're new here, Gringo, I've talked about this more than once. This stuff you're hearing about 10 years ago or whatever, I think Linda Moulton Howe was talking about SEAL 1, this mysterious alleged Navy SEAL, who was telling her about a team of scientists who were sent into a cavern in Antarctica, encountered something so astounding that they were catatonic when they emerged. And that this happened like right before he tells Linda Moulton Howe about this in the 2000s. Well, the funny thing about that is, in the mid-90s, I was told by my mentor that around 1960, 59 or 60, a huge hole was discovered in Antarctica, a hole, cavern, whatever you want to call it. Think about that. Cavern is a big hole, right? And in this hole, a team of scientists went in and they were scared to death by what they saw. Giant, huge, and very old, ancient machinery. And when they emerged, frightened by what they saw. Now, I was told this in the mid-90s, and I was told that that happened around 1960. So, when did it happen? The 2000s or 1960? What do I think about that? There's something called inking the waters. And that's when you want to test people that you're vetting, and can you trust them to not talk about something that you've told them? So you make up something and you tell them, hey, this is real secret. Don't talk about this. Okay? And if it emerges and someone starts running their mouth on the thing you told them not to talk about, then you go, it's easier to trace back who told the person running their mouth if it's not the very person you told and told them not to say anything. So what I think's going on with that popular Antarctica story that's been going around our community for a decade, I think it's very possible that it was an inking of the waters, that it's a bullshit narrative that is used by the intelligence community in certain instances just to see who will run with stuff without really seriously looking into it. Okay? Or will run with something that they were told specifically to not talk about. Inking the waters. In other words, when you want to know where there's a leak in something, you ink the water up here, and then you watch for where it emerges downstream. Okay, that's what that means. So here's the thing about Antarctica. It's both and, as our friend Giza Death Star says. It's both and. I think there is some truth, there's a nugget of truth to something being hidden of our past that might be very astonishing down in Antarctica, and a cobbled together narrative from this is also used to ink the waters, to see what emerges, who emerges, you know. So yes, I think there's something hidden in Antarctica, both by the elements under the ice, but also whatever's been uncovered of it is kept from us for whatever reason. Hey, folks, I'm intrigued as to why a bunch of heads of state and other organizations all went down there around election time, and John Kerry specifically on election night, if I'm not mistaken, in 2008 or whenever it was, 12, I can't remember, goes down to Antarctica, and Buzz Aldrin's little comment about the source of all evil, or he went down there and he saw it's evil, it's awful, you know, what the hell, you know? So there's something going on down there, but we here, none of us know. And there are people in the community that will imply that they know, and I doubt it. But thank you again, Gringo Brandino, for your $10 super chat. Good Lordy. An hour and 42 minutes. Time passes when you're having fun, huh? Dee-dee-dee-dee. Whoop, 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 whoop. Lodjevic, 19. What do you think of what Joseph covered in the latest news and views from Japan self-amplifying injection? Oh, I've got to catch up on that. I'm embarrassed. Joseph is right here, and that one I haven't listened to, but I will catch up on that this weekend. Now, if you're talking about I'm guessing the phrase self-amplifying injections, meaning you get a vaccine and it's the gift that keeps on giving. It just keeps. Is my literal interpretation of that correct? That wouldn't surprise me. CW Channer says your take on the X-Men is wrong. The Avengers are try hard, do goody goodies. You know what? You have a point there, because the X-Men are the ones that have Wolverine, right? And he's not a do-gooder. I didn't say anything about do-goody-goodies. I said collectivists versus individuals. CW serenaded me. He did a song for me on his live stream tonight. Thriller James 01 says Sigma humans. Okay, you mean there's alpha, beta, and sigma? The description I've seen of Sigma males, I relate to a lot more than alphas. I'm not a friggin' beta, but I don't go around, being alpha. I can kick everybody's ass. I'm a tough guy. Look at me, I'm pumped up. No, I'm a little more. Look at the work I was in. Sigma males, Sigma people, or whatever, if I'm understanding what you're talking about correctly, are much more suited to the work I did. Alphas are perfect for being commandos. I was not a commando. I was a spook. We learned a little bit of that commando stuff because, you're kind of a jack of all trades when you're a spook. I was, right before I left, I was already informed that my next training was going to be field medic training, because I was going to war zones, and I was up in the group I worked in. I was going to be in the next group of, learn field surgery and all that medic stuff. But no, I was a spook, not a commando. So much more sigma than alpha. Or Tom Davis asks, what is your opinion of Linda Moulton Howe? She is a nice lady. I've met her on a couple of occasions, had lunch with her on one occasion. Joseph Farrell, our friend Giza Death Star, was there with me. We went up to Albuquerque with an associate of ours who would graciously and generously host several of us. And on this particular trip, it was myself, it was Giza Death Star, it was a couple of other associates who were private folks. And we had lunch with her. She's a very nice lady. She's very sincere. Unfortunately, I think in recent years, some people have done fast ones on her and gotten some things lacking credibility through her. And that's too bad. But, you know, that's, I think her due diligence has slipped on some things, but I'm not going to trash her because I've met the lady and she truly is. Now look, there's an author out there. I'm not going to name him. Again, Giza Death Star probably knows who I'm talking about. This guy's work is solid. He's only written a couple of books, few books. His work is solid. It was years ago that I met him. And I've referenced his work. I respect his work. He personally is a cranky asshole. I mean, you guys think I'm a curmudgeon. This guy's just an abrasive asshole. So, you know, that guy, it's like, he's an abrasive asshole. But Linda Moulton Howe's a sincere, nice lady, and just unfortunately has kind of stumbled for some stuff that lacks credibility in recent years. So, oops. Okay, I think I'm down the scroll, so I've got it. Remember, folks, you can get the time travel guidebook in which C.W. Chanter's method, the 20-year time loop, is discussed as a very good tool if you want to try time travel. Now, we're talking about C.W.'s 20-year time loop tool. He is not a tool. Okay, he's a nice guy, CW. Anyway, I'm teasing CW, but seriously, I talk about his 20-year time loop in this, and you can get this at walterbosley.com. If you haven't got it, it's a short read, and it's enjoy it, have fun with it, but try it. You never know. It won't work if you don't try it. And then, of course, we talked about earlier about the Trojan horse that was Operation Paperclip, the coup that was the JFK assassination. Folks, I go into this book talking about how the JFK assassination is right out of the Prussian Junkers playbook of the medieval era. Okay, the people who I think are behind this mysterious, you know, what I've borrowed from Delschau to call Nimza. Okay, they did this in the Firma. I had a German contact, Fama, I think. I don't know how to pronounce it. Actually, Giza Death Star knows how to pronounce German better than me. The Fama was this secretive assassination, terror, judgment, like evil Judge Dredd kind of organization. Okay, and the JFK assassination is exactly how the Fama would do things, dating back to the medieval Prussian Junkers era, folks. Okay. The JFK assassination is textbook what this Prussian group behind the rise of Nazi Germany would do to political enemies. All right? Textbook, a very public, horrific, violent murder, and they would keep it, you know, you never knew who actually did it. Okay? So, yeah, Operation Paperclip was a Trojan horse infiltration of the United States. And they have essentially had control over the U.S. since then, particularly since the JFK assassination, and particularly even more once the neocons got control of the Republican Party and started getting in the White House. And that's when we became even worse about everything's about the military-industrial complex. This was the most depressing book I've ever written in my life. And this was the one you asked earlier what the most difficult book for me to write was. It's this right here. And you can thank Giza Death Star because he's the one that recommended the source material that started this whole depressing experience. And that is The 1,000-Year Conspiracy by Paul Winkler and Perfidy by Ben Hecht. Oh boy, do you need to read Perfidy now. Wow. Ben Hecht, by the way, was one of the greatest classic Hollywood screenwriters who ever lived. This is a guy, among other things he wrote the screenplay, he adapted Gunga Din. Oh, let me tell you. Let me grab something off the Walter Bosley shelf here. Gunga Din, one of my favorite movies. Malia and I were coming back from Montana, and we went through Lone Pine, California, and they've got a fantastic movie history museum, mostly Westerns, but adventure films. And Gunga Din was filmed in Lone Pine, California, and I got this book on the making of Gunga Din, and I haven't finished reading it yet. But Ben Hecht, folks, Perfidy, Perfidy. Read it. Read The 1,000-Year Conspiracy by Paul Winkler. And get NIMSA, How America Sold Its Soul, at walterbosley.com. It's a short read, folks. So, oh, I see Malia in the studio. Is she going to jump in? Oh, wait, she's got a camera issue. Folks, that's why you haven't seen Malia in the last week or so. The kitty cat knocked over the camera. Her camera. Oh, yes, Yahweh the Two-Faced God. Read that book. Ah, yes. For the background of material on Ben Hecht's Perfidy. So, I was just talking with someone. I think it was Malia today. Although I've talked about this before. I worked in Israel twice. I had to go to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem both times. Wonderful place to visit. Amman, Jordan. Jordan I enjoyed working there. I worked there several times. I think I had to go to Jordan 6 or 7 times. And I like going to Swafia, which is a part of town where there's the marketplace and the shops. And the food is amazing, everywhere in the Middle East. Jerusalem, oh gosh, wonderful food there. Tel Aviv, wonderful food. But in Jordan, of course, you've got Petra. You can go to the Jordan side of the Dead Sea, and the Movenpick, if it's still there. We used to go to the Movenpick Resort, and on Fridays they would have the big feast with the whitefish, the Persian whitefish. Oh, that's good eating. I'm telling you. Oh, Malia is saying, nope, internet's still too shitty. Oh, that's okay. No worries. I forgot. It's a camera issue and the internet there, but I see you're in the live chat. And so NIMSACon's coming up. Giza Death Star is going to be giving a talk. Daniel List is going to be giving a talk. They're streaming it in. Before them, Alan Greenfield. Those of you who are familiar with Alan Greenfield, when you're talking about alchemy, mysticism, occult research, Alan Greenfield, he's also the compiler of a book that I think is overrated. I know I'm going to catch hell for that. But where is it? I have my copy. The Secret Cipher of the UFO Nuts. I think that's within our community, there's a generation younger than me who just, oh my God, they go ape shit over Secret Cipher, the UFOnauts. I have it. I've read it. It's a lot of stuff I was already familiar with. This is the guy who's done things that Joseph has warned me was necromancy. That's me. But I think some of the things that are done with some of these kind of things, like this cipher or whatever, you folks be careful. And in fact, I would say to most people, don't do these things. But as we know, as some people say, here there be tigers is an encouragement for a lot of folks. But Secret Cipher, the UFOnauts, it's interesting, particularly if you're not familiar with the material that's in it. But I think it kind of gets generally hyped and overrated. But Alan Greenfield has written other very interesting things. He's speaking. And then the rest of us, Olaf, Sesh, Dave Allen, and myself, we're there live. You don't get to escape us. Oh, what's this? After I extract it. Okay. Only then will I talk. Okay. We're not recording it, by the way. Folks, remember, Joseph, we are, just for the record, we're not recording any of the talks. Okay? To experience NIMSICON, you must attend NIMSICON. And the highlights, you're not getting the lectures. And I mean, you might get glimpses of them on the screen or something, but these lectures are not being recorded for any kind of playback later. John Esmeyer. Welcome, John. A name that I don't recognize, so welcome to the channel. The X intersections are designed to weed out the non-believers. Okay. What does that mean? What did I miss? Did I miss something? Elaborate. Give me some context on that. Okay. The Shylockian promise. This person didn't write this in all caps, and I don't know the answer, but rhinoceros. Why did I think someone? Oh, my eyes. Sometimes Walter forget he's 61 years old and the vaccine ruined my eyes. I can say that because my 3 independent doctors have confirmed from the beginning that the vaccine gave me rheumatoid arthritis. It messed with my eyes, and it ruined my hearing. The vaccine. Yes, folks, but remember, I had gone through cancer treatment and survived that, and I was in my late 50s. I held out for over a year, and they finally talked me into doing it. I regret it, but I'm living proof why the people who didn't take the vax did the right thing. But anyway, my eyes, they fixed my eyes greatly, but the reading part, rhinoceros. Okay, yeah. Weird. Do you think the famous song, What's the Frequency, Kenneth, was written about Kenneth Anger? Oh, I don't know. I hadn't thought about the Kenneth Anger. Joseph Farrell, 61, you're a mere pup. So, we're looking forward to, NIMSICON starts 2 weeks from tonight. 2 weeks from tonight is the meet and greet. We're going to decide where we're going to do that. Once Malia and I are going to be flying up the morning before on the 10th. So we're going to be there all day on the 10th. The meet and greet's not till early evening on the 11th. So Malia and I will be up there with Olaf and Dave, and we're going to have all Thursday and most of Friday to get everything squared away. And by Friday morning, we'll be letting the attendees know where the meet and greet is going to be. It's going to be at a local restaurant, watering hole, that's casual and relaxed, where we can all meet and talk. It's not going to be a late night because we're starting, 9 the next morning, California time. 2 weeks from tonight, folks, we will be in Sonora. having the meet and greet for Nimzicon 2. And then, of course, you know, it'll be a fun weekend. It'll pass like a whirlwind, and we'll come away with memories and new friends and all that stuff. And it will be really cool. So, oh shoot, I forgot that. That's like a flavored thing. I'm just gonna get some water. You got to remember to drink water, folks. That's probably not the best water. In fact, Malia's going to thump me on the head for having Stater Brothers water, grocery store water. She turned me on to Fiji and the thing about the colored caps, if you get the right colored cap, you're getting a decent water. Uh-oh. D. Dorothy says she was born the year Roswell happened. Could that be how D. Dorothy came to this planet? So, yeah, folks, if you're new here, again, oh, hey, you guys are talking about it. Look what happens to be on my desk, because I've referred to it. Folks, read this book. You may think you know the story about Joseph McCarthy. Read this book. And Walter's running to his shelves again. Walter's coming right back. Oh, wait, this isn't the one. Hold on. Oh, wait, that's because I don't actually have... I did the covers on these for Joseph, and I don't have the edition. I have the one with the original cover, but you want to read McCarthy, Marshall, and the Other International, and you want to read... This is McCarthy, Monmouth, and the Deep State. Okay? You want to read these books. All right? And if you still come away with the Joseph McCarthy was an evil bastard, then you're just stubbornly embracing the Soviet-influenced propaganda of the day. I'm just going to stack these all right here. Good gosh almighty. Hey, maybe one of you guys can answer a question for me. I just recently, I can't remember the source I heard it, but John W. Keeley, remember the guy that's associated with the airship mystery in the 1890s? He was the guy that was doing the anti-gravity stuff. John W. Keeley. Those of you who know who Keeley was, did Keeley commit suicide? I recently heard that, and I went back and looked in the sources I had, and I did indeed find where he died suddenly. And I thought, wow. Ray's Machine says, Kenneth, what is the frequency? Was the question asked of Dan Rather? Yes, I remember that. I remember that totally. But I wasn't aware that it might have had something to do with Kenneth Anger. Now, Griffin Eagle, I have a comment about this. Griffin Eagle says, McCarthy, I love him like Patton. Now, I am generally a fan of George S. Patton, but I want to disagree with him on one thing. And that comment that we were fighting the wrong enemy in World War II, we should team up with Nazi Germany and go fight the Soviets. I'm all for, you know, if we had to, kicking the ass of the Soviet Union. I wouldn't have had a problem with that. But we weren't making a mistake fighting the goddamn Nazis and Nazi Germany, okay? Period. earlier, when I first got started, I'm glad this came up. When I first got started, I talked to you about how in Esoteric Napoleon 2, there's a particular thing I'm talking about. And there's this one source, a guy whose stuff is out there, and he writes about ancient cultures that came to the Americas, blah, blah, blah. All right. I'm not going to name him because he doesn't deserve to have his name uttered. But he's a former Nazi and a convicted pedophile. And I'm not using his information. Now, some people would say, the fact that he may be right about some of the stuff in ancient history that he's talking about. Somehow there's people out there. These are the people that say, well, not all the things the Nazis did was bad, and maybe they weren't such bad guys. Bullshit. They were bad guys. They were such bad guys. There's no redeeming quality about being a goddamn Nazi. Okay? Just because, you might say something accurate does not lessen, your reprehensibility being a Nazi. Okay? I mean, the modern freeway system in the United States is modeled exactly off of the original Autobahn that Albert Speer designed for Hitler. Okay. The VW Beetle, everybody knows the Nazi history of that. Fanta, the soda, my understanding is that was a Nazi company invention down in South America, right? Fanta soda, just because we enjoy, ice cold Fanta while we're driving our VW Beetle down the freeway, the Autobahn inspired freeway, does not make the Nazis, they're less of a bad guy. No. And in this community, there's this disturbing thread of people who this rehabilitate the Nazi image crap. Okay? I mean, it's not just this idiot Marina Sarin, voicing this crap. Anyway, I don't want to go too far down a political tangent. Shane, I don't know about that particular issue, but I don't think it was the Soviets at that time that murdered all those people at Auschwitz. That was the Nazis. Hey, Stalin himself was responsible for, in other ways. Adam Talamantes, welcome, Adam. Which of your secret missions books was it where you discussed the hiding of swords, treasure in the Americas, any connection to the wild conspiracy of King Arthur being brought to the U.S. to be buried? I love this question. Secret Missions 1, The Hidden Legacy of Old California, is specifically about Juan Cabrillo becoming a Templar and taking on a mission where he came to Alta California. Secretly, his own personal secret mission, he was looking for he came on this mission, I propose, to retrieve the sword of Joan of Arc, which was secreted here to the Americas by the Templars before she was caught, before she was captured. Okay? The British, England. Now, when I say England, I don't mean you good folks who are just regular folks who happen to be British. You guys know who I'm talking about. It's like when we talk about certain things here in the U.S., assholes here in the U.S., we're talking about our elites. We're talking about our elements of our leadership, okay? We're talking about the a-holes in our elite structure, okay? when I disparage England and the Brits, I'm talking about, like monarchy and oligarchy and the bankers, the elites, not you regular folks. I like regular British folks. But the British elites, they pushed, okay? They pushed the people who had Joan of Arc on trial, and they were obsessed with her particular sword. They were obsessed with it. That's all they cared about. When you read the trials, and here's what's amazing about the trial of Joan of Arc, the transcripts are available and they've been translated, okay? The English were obsessed with, where is that sword? Where is that sword? Where is that special sword? And she said, I don't know. I gave it to my brothers. Or it would have been, I do not know. I gave it to my brothers, mon frère. And I go into my book. I explain how her brothers, one or both of them, could have been post-persecution underground Templars, and they got it in the hands of the Templars, who brought it to North America and secreted it in vaults. Kind of a moving vault situation. As the colonizers, I don't like that term because I don't demonize the colonies. As the population grew with the colonies, I think the Templars moved their vaults westward. Okay, so that's what that book is about, and that's where I discussed that. Now, what's interesting is, as we know, the lore has it, King Arthur was taken to the west when he was, injured by his asshole kid Mordred. Remember, in one of the best parts in Excalibur is, "Come, Father, let us embrace at last." When Mordred runs Arthur through with the sword, and then Arthur grabs the spear and pulls himself down the spear so he can get at Mordred with Excalibur. And then he runs it through. It's beautiful. He runs it through right there, just and Mordred, the blood comes up, and he's, it's beautiful. You got to see Excalibur if you actually haven't seen Excalibur. Come on, folks. But some traditions say Arthur was dead. Some others say he wasn't dead. He was taken by the three ladies, and Excalibur depicts this, across the west, across the sea to the west, traditionally to the island of Avalon. The Sword of Destiny, no, Karen Carpenter, it wasn't the Sword of Destiny. It was specifically, get this, you guys are going to love this. Joan of Arc claimed to be guided by three saints. The primary one who actually communicated to her was Saint Catherine of Alexandria. Saint Catherine of Alexandria never existed. She was made up out of kind of whole cloth. And the biography of Hypatia of Alexandria, a very real woman who was a historical figure, the daughter of the librarian of Alexandria at Alexandria, okay, took the Catholic Church took her biography and took this made up bullshit and created a Saint Catherine of Alexandria. They admitted to this, okay? The church admitted to this in the 20th century, okay? That there was never a Saint Catherine of Alexandria. Now, here's the thing. Who else did they take to create this Saint Catherine of Alexandria? And there is a career, former, now retired professor of history, PhD, named Rick Spence, my co-author in Empire of the Wheel, who agrees and concurs. They took the aspects of the goddess Hecate, lined him up with Hypatia of Alexandria, and that is St. Catherine of Alexandria. So it looks like, I propose, in Secret Missions 1, The Hidden Legacy of Old California, that Joan of Arc was being guided by the goddess Hecate in her guise as St. Catherine of Alexandria. This is what Joan of Arc said, that the saint guided her to the church of Firebois in France, where behind the altar she was directed to find the sword of Charles Martel. Now look up Charles Martel, the hammer, okay? And you'll see what he did. And here's the thing. He had he claims that he got the sword because he prayed to God for help because they were outnumbered by the Saracens. Okay. And he prayed to God for a miracle, for help. And the night before the Battle of Tours, a meteor fell from the sky, a meteorite. Charles Martel rides out there with his blacksmith, his weaponsmith, and they take the metal from the meteorite and fashion this sword. And that's the sword that he goes into battle with, and they defeat the Saracens at Tours. Now, folks, when you read both sides, it's almost a comedy of errors, the winning of the Battle of Tours. There is some stupidity and weirdness that happens, some luck, some blind luck. But then Charles Martel goes and buries the sword behind the altar in the Church of Fireball, which is the Church of St. Catherine of Alexandria. This fake saint who was crafted using syncretism to just absorb the worship of this ancient goddess Hecate. Okay? I've done the research on this. Read Empire of the Wheel 1. I've done the scholarly research. Rick Spence and he backs it up. The scholarly research on this is accurate. No matter what you think of these figures, blah, blah, blah. And the church even admitted that there was no St. Catherine of Alexandria. There's one of Siena, but not Alexandria. Okay, so I also talk about in Secret Missions 1 that this figure, this feminine female entity, may also have been whom Arthurian lore refers to as the Lady of the Lake. Arthur gets Excalibur, a special sword that he can't be defeated when he's wielding. He gets it from the Lady of the Lake. Catherine, or Joan of Arc, is guided to the special sword by a female entity. And when she carried that sword, she could never be defeated. She even in one battle had an arrow in her leg and kept riding, and they couldn't kill her. She was only captured after she goes into a battle not carrying the special sword. I asked the question, why was England obsessed with getting the sword? Because they thought it was Excalibur. Now, I go into an Excalibur type of sword and how the round table, which has seats for 12 knights, actually corresponds to 12 mineral elements that went into the forging of that sword. The sword itself is a type of sword. Okay? Read Secret Missions 1, The Hidden Legacy of Old California. And if you're a Spanish reader, Malia has translated Secret Missions 1 into Spanish, and it's available. Do I have it right up there? Allow me to go to the shelves. Uh-oh. This is why I'm not the translator. I think it's Misiones Secretas is the proper one. Here's the Spanish translation by Malia. So if you read Spanish, or if you know anybody who reads Spanish and they're interested in this stuff, tell them. WalterBosley.com. Misiones Secretas. So, Adam, there you go. You can get it at WalterBosley.com. So, oh gosh, folks, let's see. 2 hours and 19 minutes tonight. This is like back to my old days, my original live stream days when I used to go 3 hours. I don't know if you guys remember that. Some of you folks that have been around a while. Melcart. What does that mean? What is this? What is this? What is this Melcart? Okay, let me scroll back up because I think I missed some. Which of your secret? Okay. Adam Telemonte. Sorry if off topic, kind of new, but glad to. Hey, no, you're not off. No, tonight you guys can ask me whatever you want. This is kind of a free for all night. Deciphering my experience with Eric Hecker. You once stated that you asked a supervisor to deploy to Antarctica. What outfit were you with when you made that request? Eric, by the way, folks, I believe was an electrician in Antarctica for a year, if I'm getting that right. You once stated that you asked I was a special agent of the Air Force OSI, and I told my commander, if it comes up and you need to deploy somebody to Antarctica, I'm your guy. Send me. I'll go. And he looked at me and he said, you know, we're at Wright-Patterson, and the North Pole and Thule Air Base on Greenland is already in our AOR. And I said, well, I'll go there too. You know, but this came up after I was issued, we got some new deployment equipment, and I was issued my new Arctic gear. And it was cool. It's cool shit. And so I told him, I said, sir, send me, I'm your guy. And but I was with Air Force, U.S. Air Force, OSI Detachment 101, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where I was chief of the counter-espionage operations branch. We had global reach with our missions. I was assigned to I was a detachment asset. I was assigned to the detachment, a junior officer at the detachment. But we took our mission orders from OSI headquarters in the Pentagon. So my commander, Lieutenant Colonel, that was my commander, he wouldn't say, okay, Walter, you're going to do this operation, that. No. When we discussed my branch's operations, I was usually telling him what we were doing. Sir, we're doing this, we're doing that, this is going there, blah, 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 blah. Now, where he would tell me what to do counterintelligence, counter-espionage wise, is if we thought we had an espionage situation, and then he would say, okay, well, I need your guys to take this over from the CI branch. We might have an espionage situation, a spy. And that did happen. And while I was at Wright-Pat was where I first encountered, I don't know if you guys watch Redacted on YouTube, but there's a guy, Scott Ritter, who's kind of an expert on Russia and the Soviet Union. I first encountered Scott Ritter when I was at Wright-Pat. Okay. And I like him. I tend to agree with his positions on what's going on. But this was back in the 90s. So, yeah, I was with the United States Air Force OSI, Office of Special Investigations. Karen Degenhart. Mark Twain was most proud of his book on Joan of Arc. That's true, Karen. That's true. Mark Twain wrote that book on Joan of Arc, and he was really fascinated with the case. But yeah, the authorities in England, after she was captured, were obsessed with where's the sword? Where's the sword? Flying Brian Myers wants a hug. Big boy. Griffin Eagle 7. It's been a good one, Walter. Well, thank you. I'm not planning on ending it right now, so. Melkart, Lady of the Lake Phoenician, Joan of Arc similar. Oh, okay. I'll check that out. Flying Brian, I got hired to go to Antarctica about 5 years ago, and it just didn't make sense to go at the time. Young daughter. Oh, yeah, you're right, because I would imagine, and maybe Eric can probably back this up, I imagine you have to commit to like a year at least, right? Because of all the resources and expense it takes to get someone down there. My understanding is it's quite the commitment. Oh, hey, Ryan Osiris again. Thank you. $20 super chat. Walter, would enjoy your opinion of the John Searle Magtech for power generation, how it ties into anti-gravity and Otis Carr. I have to admit, I'm not any kind of expert on. I'm just vaguely familiar with Searle and Otis Carr and all that stuff, but I find the history of anti-gravity research fascinating. As we know, this was open source research until around 1959, 58, 59, when there was a big breakthrough. Now, here's what you might find interesting. My dad, when he was at George Air Force Base, which it's like a ghost town now, up in Victorville, California, when he was there in the late 50s, he told me before he died that he had told me in 91, 92. That was the first time I heard about Wilson, the enigmatic, mysterious Wilson. And before he died, he told me that he got to see a demonstration of these anti-gravity platforms invented by and developed by the Wilsons, the younger Wilson and the older one referred to as the professor. And they would control it with a slide bar. He said they would tap a phalange, like about as big as your pinky finger, metal. They would tap it, and the resonance, the vibration, that would activate the anti-gravity, the buoyancy. And then they had a slide bar controller that would make it ascend and descend. And he said he witnessed this being demonstrated in a place out here in the Mojave Desert, which I'm still investigating, trying to find. He named the place. I'm not going to name it here. But I haven't found by name, place name, the site yet. Now, Sesharia, of course, has helped me over the years with his analyses, see if we can identify it that way. But anyway, I'm very intrigued with all that anti-gravity stuff. Now, here's what's interesting. My dad encountered this in the late 50s, maybe 57 or 58. Now, recall the very public anti-gravity research, it was very much open source discussion until around 1959, 58, when there was a breakthrough. Had my dad witnessed the breakthrough? I don't know. I'm not one of those that's going to go out there and say, my dad told me this and it's the gospel truth. I don't know. But I will tell you this. In the years leading up to when he died, by then I had been an agent. My subject interview, a nice way of saying interrogation. Those skills I had developed. I know how to get information out of people, not in a coercive, torturous way, just simply by talking with them and the way, I was trained and experienced to do it. And I used my skills on my dad. I have no, please. When they teach you this stuff, they say, now, don't use this on your loved ones. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like if you have a teenage kid you think's lying to you, you goddamn right you're going to use your interrogation tricks and skills. So I used all that stuff on my dad, and I will tell you, he went to his death. At least he was believing he was telling me the truth about all these weird things. Okay. Now you notice the agent in me, the intelligence gatherer in me. Notice how I put that. He firmly, genuinely believed he was telling the truth. I'm not telling you he was absolutely telling that what he was telling me was the truth, because I haven't confirmed that yet. I can't confirm it yet. But my gut and my intuition, my professional experience tell me there may be some truth to this. So for what that's worth, again, I really need to dig into the John Searle thing and refresh my memory with it. But anyway, thank you for the very generous super chat and the question. Let me go back up here. Deciphering my experience, Eric Hecker. Again, interesting. I wonder what they would have presented you to be operating under, since they do not advertise those players to the locals. Plumber firefighter. That's plumber firefighter. Okay, I was thinking it was electrician. Yeah, it would have been this, Eric. I would have been everybody in the Air Force who's not a pilot or on a flight crew. Everything in the Air Force is support for flight operations, right? That's everything we do. If you're not rated, meaning you don't have a set of wings, being either a pilot or air crew in the Air Force, you are in support function for those pilots, because it's our enlisted guys used to like to say, yeah, Air Force enlisted are the smartest enlisted people in the U.S. military. Why? The Army, the Navy, and the Marines, for the most part, they send their enlisted people to do the fighting. With the Air Force, you got to be an officer to be a pilot, and that's the primary fighters in the Air Force. So he says the enlisted send the officers out to do the fighting. And, they're not wrong about that. But whatever, and there are U.S. Air Force flight ops, as you know, there's U.S. military flight ops to Antarctica back and forth. I would have been in a general support function for U.S. Air Force / any DoD flight ops, right? But my specific job would have included looking at any potential espionage concerns among the personnel in Antarctica at the station. That's a fact. So if I'd have been down there, Special Agent Bosley, we think we have a firefighter who works with Eric Hecker who might be informing unauthorized people of things that they shouldn't be talking about. And then, and it flights. Let me put a finer point on it. Agent Bosley, one of these guys, is paying attention to Air Force DoD comings and goings, aircraft, and might be telling the Chinese about it. Get on this. And part of my job might have been to go to firefighter plumber Eric Hecker to enlist your assistance. And I might have done it through a go-between. I might have done it through some other agent who's more of a mundane type, and I would have been, his Barney Fife buddy. Hi, I'm Agent Smith. This is Agent Bosley. He's helping me. And, hi there, Mr. Hecker. How you doing? And I would have been assessing you the whole time. I would have known more about you than that guy fronting for me. And, at some point, if I thought you would be valuable to help with this situation, at some point then you'd be pulled aside under other circumstances. And then you would get to know the real me. I would say, this is what I really do. And this is how we need your help. And before I tell you too much, you're going to sign a NDA should you say, no, you don't want to do this. But we make it sound so sexy and fun that, most guys can't resist, ooh, I'm going to be a stud undercover guy for these secret agent guys, but that's kind of, in the realm, among other things that a guy like me would have been down there for. And ostensibly the big picture is it's all in support of U.S. Air Force / DOD, any DOD flight ops. There was talk when I was in the 90s that they were going to create a purple suit agency. They were going to they were going to combine OSI, Army CID, and Navy. Back then it was the Naval Investigative Service, now the NCIS, and bring them all together into one organization where all the agents were civilians, and it was just DOD investigative agency, which there is. There's the Defense Investigative Service or something. I forget what they call themselves. A good friend of mine is an agent with them, but they were talking about doing that back then. But yeah, it would have been a cool assignment. I would have got a particular ribbon, that I could wear, having served in Antarctica. It's equivalent to like a campaign medal kind of thing. But that would have been what my duties were. Flying Brian Myers, Audio cavitation, probably a control device, not a generator. User search is problematic at best. Yeah. Well, because, we know for a fact that they finally put the AG assist, which is the electrogravitics, on the B2. They incorporated that into the B2, which, Brian, if you remember when I first before I went to Wright Pat, you and I, shortly before that, we had seen Broken Arrow. And if you remember, John Travolta's a pilot of the faux Hollywood B2, called the B3 or whatever. A month later, not even a month later, I think, when I first got to Wright Pat, I was there a week when I had to start making the rounds because I had a 9-state AOR. I was chief of my branch at Wright Pat, but my mission was all U.S. Air Force installations and personnel. I could draw from those resources, all U.S. Air Force personnel, active duty and civilian, from all Air Force installations in 9 states to draw from for my global mission, operational mission. But my branch was also responsible for if there was an espionage situation that popped up in any U.S. Air Force installation in that 9-state region. It was huge. I and my branch were the ones who would conduct the investigation. So I had to go meet, because I was the new branch chief, I had to go around, make the rounds of my AOR. And I was in Ohio for less than a week when I had to fly over to Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and meet the B2 unit guys and the commander and stuff. And we got to go on board a B2, which was really cool. But that's where I started learning about some sneaky deaky stuff on the B2. And then later I met a gentleman who worked for Boeing. Is it Boeing? Yeah, it's Boeing, right? And it was a little bit more public. It had become public by then, the AG assist, lift assist with the B2. And he had worked on that. So, but you got to get into T. Townsend Brown for that mystery of some breakthrough around 1959, because anti-gravity research went under a tight lid when that happened. After 1959, not a word, not a serious word in public domain, public open sources after that. And I suspect it was probably the electrogravitics advancement. When I was at Wright Pat, I went to the vault one day and I was dealing with classified technology documents practically every day on that job. There's stuff I saw that I still will not talk about. I'm not authorized to, and I won't even go there at all. But I did see some stuff on electrogravitics and AG mid-90s when I was at Wright Pat in the vault. And I'll leave it at that. Kevin Sanderson, I think the anti-grav tests by the Wilsons were by the Hearst estate when I read. The anti-gravity thing my dad was talking about was something that the Wilsons, this is in the late 50s, okay? Something that the Wilsons had developed at the bequest of the Department of Defense. And it was to do with that. So by that time, I don't think it was Hearst related, but I don't know, Kevin. Maybe so. Lodjevic, 19. Mahar's asked, what are your thoughts on the Book of Mormon? Okay, here we go. I think the Book of Mormon is a thing made up initially by Joseph Smith, etc., and then greatly altered by Brigham Young. Because I think Brigham Young did a power grab. I think you and I have talked about this, Lodjevic. Oh, no. I talked about this with David J. West. Brigham Young did a power grab. A lot of the things that we talk about with Mormonism, the things people mock, make fun of, or criticize, don't like, actually started with Brigham Young. And but the Book of Mormon, here's what I think. It has some, I think, valuable information regarding the diffusionist stuff, the ancient people, civilizations or whatever, that came to the Americas from the old world, so to speak. Okay. Now, the spin and the labeling that Joseph Smith put on it is stuff he made up. Okay. Here's what I think. I think Joseph Smith somehow did encounter actual ancient information, documentation, the plates, whatever you want to call it. And he created the Book of Mormon and Mormonism, marrying what he learned about the ancient secrets to what he loved about Freemasonry, plus, his view of Christianity. I don't want to say small c Christianity, but, I think you get what I'm saying. So I look, the Book of Mormon is a product of what we've come to call churchianity. In Christianity, there is what would be a more authentic Christianity, and then there's this thing that is more churchianity, okay, where the church is more important than what it's supposed to represent, and being active in or a member of the church is actually more important than what it's supposed to be espousing. And I think that it's a 19th century product of churchianity that has some valuable ancient historical pointers, okay, but beyond that, it's just another hokey pokey that you do if you want to be in a particular culture. And they definitely what it became, what it is, though, that's not answering your question, but I think what I have learned and what I've seen is that they, particularly with the missions, they established one of the most effective intelligence collecting operations and apparatuses in the world. I don't know if it rivals what the Vatican, which has existed a lot longer, but Power Mormonism will say, through the mission system, has developed an intelligence agency, essentially. A very effective intelligence agency. So, but that's an offshoot of what your question was. So, I don't believe that any of the hokey pokey that it tells its readers and followers to do to be in good graces with God and Jesus, whatever. I don't buy any of that. To me, the nugget of value is what's going on with those lost cities and the Americas, archaeologically, geographically, and stuff like that. That's my personal opinion. I kind of feel that way about some biblical stuff too. There are priesthoods in the world with small p. I say that. And they figure out a good thing. And the way to keep their good thing going, number one, is through spiritual fear. You convince people that they're going to go to hell if they don't do your hokey pokey. There's a lot of people that will buy into that out of fear. It puts butts in pews. It puts dollars in the collection plate. Okay. And, Discovering Eric J. Hecker, thank you for clarifying, confirming that these conversations I have been part of exist. I have the Antarctic Service Medal with Winter Over device. Hey, cool. Very cool. Very cool. Well earned. Anybody that would go into that environment I think you were there for a year. Jesus, anybody that would go down there for a month, deserves some respect. But yeah, all the folks, military, civilian, whatever, that go down there for a job. And here's the thing, an environment like that, I think you'd agree, every job is important. Every job is important. So kudos. 55 to 57, Joseph. Okay, you're talking about the Northrop. Thank you, Solar Warden. As I was saying, as the word Boeing came out of my mouth, I'm like, oh God, Walter, that's not right. Northrop. Thank you. Well, think about it, Joseph. My dad would have, as I said, my dad would have seen that demonstration around 57 or 58, as I said a couple of minutes ago. So, Shane Walker asks, do you think T.T. Brown Tech has a connection to mind control programs as well? Hadn't thought of that. That's a good question. Is there a discussion out there on that? But that's an interesting question. Lodivik 19, have you read Agnew Bonson Jr.'s book, The Stars Are Too High? Bonson came up in, or is coming up in a talk. Is it Sesharie or is it Joseph? Somebody brought up Bonson, and I think it was Sesharie, in a talk he just gave, or the one he's going to give at the NIMSACon. So I will revisit Bonson. Fine by Myers. Isn't churchianity really just Catholicism? Well, and Brian Giza Death Star, Joseph Farrell can answer that for you more technically accurately, but I've learned from him and others that really even Protestant Christianity is still a product of Roman Catholicism. Okay? It's still a product of it in certain ways. I'm going to guess that it's more Catholic than, I don't know. Joseph, answer that one, because I don't know if I can answer that exact question accurately. Lodivik 19, an apostolic coup d'etat. Where have I heard that phrase before? Joseph, have you used that phrase, an apostolic coup d'etat? Because I've heard that, I think, in relation to Bonson, Lodivik. So, wait a minute. I got an eye roll from Joseph. Was that me or someone else that inspired that eye roll? Griffin Eagle 7. Walter, what's your interpretation of the image carving of the skull on the wheels? Could be. What are you talking about, Griffin Eagle? Then it must have been Sesh who mentioned Bonson to me. Or somebody did. So, okay. But then people I know who are atheists, they'll applaud some of my commentary on these kinds of subjects, but then it flabbergasts them that I still believe in God. Well, how can you believe that if you think these other things? Because I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because, right or wrong, whether you agree with me or not, whether I have everything accurate, just because I have a problem with any kind of church system in particular, whatever it may be, there are some that are, better than others and legit. Folks, there's a lot of churches out there, temples, mosque, whatever. There's a lot of church things out there where they do it right. It's just where people come together and they think alike and they worship alike and they do good things for their community. And, they're not trying to get money. They're not out there recruiting like mad. They come together, and for pure intentions, and they do good things. Okay. That is what I think it's supposed to be about. But just because I have issues with the organizational worship industry or concept doesn't mean I don't think God exists. That's, to me, it's just different. One is a very human construct. So that's where I'm coming from on this. And yeah, I do get some eye rolls from, atheist associates because of that, But anyway, good Lord, almost 3 hours, folks. Lodges. Yeah, they're like lodges. So, oh, Lordy. Yes, sirree. Folks, I'm catching my breath. Talked about this book tonight, Nimza, How America Sold Its Soul, WalterBosley.com. The Time Travel Guidebook. This is a real fun read, but I'm not saying it wouldn't work. This talks about the consciousness-driven method of time travel, WalterBosley.com. And here's the one I showed earlier, Purple Shadows, The Transgender Pulp Tales by Walter Bosley. What is he, a Bud Light drinker? Folks, I wrote these tales years ago, and they all have to do with alchemy, hermeticism, Enochian magic ritual, and very subtextual, stuff going on. It's, it's not what you think. And by the way, that book is being looked at by a guy interested in maybe developing one of those stories. And also they're filled with humor. House of Ka, Green Ghost, and You Will Be Mine. These are the 3 novellas that are in that book, and they're being considered for one of them to be turned into a film. Weinberg Myers, I really do think most of the moral atheists I'm friendly with would be thrilled to be proven wrong, but it's a matter of faith, not proof. Yeah. And here's, look, folks, I think a lot of people are misled as to what faith with a small f really means. It's a process. Faith, coming to a particular faith, is an experiential process, that you can't, it's hard to explain. You can't convince anyone else. It's something that the individual has to go through to get to, and your experience is going to be different than the person next to you, and that's the best I can put it. So yeah, I agree with you, Brian. It's faith, not proof. And this is my opinion, this based on my experience. The only proof you're ever going to have is demonstrated or given to you, and you're unable to convince others with it. It's a very individual, experiential process. Very individual. And unfortunately, there is madness in the human psyche. And sometimes madness can come along with some spiritual revelations. So that's a whole other discussion. Donnie Rotten, Walt, when are you going to have Dr. Joseph on again? He's been real busy. I think he was wrapping up a book several months back and has just recently wrapped up another one. He's been real busy, and he's going to come back on when his schedule, loosens up. And of course the weather permits, because I've seen his storm shelter. Okay. He's opened up the door, and I've seen it, and he's had to dash in there a few times that I'm aware of. And so it's a real concern where he's at. Pseudonym asks, Walter, what is your take on near-death experience phenomena? I think it's real. I think some things people come back with are personal interpretation of what they experienced. Because of my views on the traditional view of hell, I generally don't buy the people that come back, I've seen hell, and y'all better repent because I had an NDE. Believe me, trust me, bro. They might very well have had an NDE, but they're either very emotionally reacting to what they experienced, and it's more comforting to interpret it in the traditional religious with a small r, I mean, in that sense, way. But I think the phenomenon itself is valid. Shane Walker says, would love to see you on Brothers of the Serpent again. Oh, well, if they ask me, it all depends on how much hell they take from certain members of audiences. There's another show that I know for a fact that certain members of their audience hate me. And I think they just can't stand it when the hosts have me on, which puts a smile on my face. But sometimes, I'm not saying that's the case of Brothers of the Serpent. It just might be that, I haven't come around in the rotation again. So Brothers of the Serpent, I don't recall him giving me that impression at all. But hey, if they ask me, I'll be on. TJ Lynch, have any thought on the many times video phenomenon? Have any thought on the many times video phenomenon of animals approaching humans for help? No, I haven't. There's videos of that? That's interesting. You're welcome, Pseudonym. And let's see what else there is. I've got, if you were to see the desk that I'm sitting at, the table, it's piled with books that I'm, looking at in my research on Esoteric Napoleon 2. See, here's Esoteric Napoleon 1. And some other stuff. Vedic cosmography and astronomy, and on and so forth. Okay, good. I don't want to. So, yeah, I had told Malia that I was going to jump on live tonight and just do kind of a interacting with the live chat from the get-go and answer questions about stuff. So, so I'm working on the Esoteric Napoleon 2. This focuses on the Louisiana Territory and some things that I learned while writing Esoteric Napoleon 1. I think you guys will really like it. If you like the first book especially, you'll like this one. As I said, I'm waiting for some things that I put in some requests from National Archives and from other organizations, FOIAs, and I'm waiting for those answers to come back. And should I get like a real positive hit, I'll need to include that into the book. So, but I'm looking at the release, it being finished and able to release by Thanksgiving weekend. There's the big Black Friday, day when Christmas shopping is officially kicked off. But you can get the book at a discounted price on pre-order right now at walterbosley.com. It's only $19.95, but it'll be $3 more after it's finished and the pre-order, the pre-sale is ended. The retail is going to be, $22.95, I think. So, be sure to, if you're interested in it, if you think you're going to read it, go ahead and pre-order it, folks. And next week, I'm going to be doing a live featuring this guy. He's a local philanthropist, you could say, community leader. Fantastic story. And you're going to learn more about him next week. Tony Collins Cifuentes published his book. We're going to be having he's going to be having a big signing event on November 16th. So Jackpot asks, Walter, how often does the newsletter come out? Monthly. We're releasing that monthly, so there should be a new one coming out. I think Malia wants to get that out sometime late next week. Joseph, I'm talking about the Esoteric Napoleon 2. I haven't. Right now, it's tentatively the Louisiana Territory mystery, but I'm referring to Esoteric Napoleon 2 that I'm going to be having wrapped up here soon. So, yeah. So there's that, and now, as you guys know, in the past, I've identified who I would like the subject of Secret Mission 6 to be, but for me to delve into that guy, I still have a lot of research ahead of me, which actually it will require me going to European sources directly, and maybe if fortunes change for us and everyone, maybe I'll get to literally go to Europe to research that particular book. Eric Hecker asks, hypothetical, if there was more protected activity at South Pole than Air Force flight ops, would they have similar systems of protecting their program from others like you would have performed for the Air Force? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they would have agents in place, and depending upon what the agreement was and what the strategy was, some of those agents would be the face of it, while there would be others embedded that you wouldn't know were agents. Like what I did at Wright Pat. I was an officer of the detachment, but I wasn't at the detachment office. In fact, I was in my third year. I'd been there for 2.5 years at Wright Pat when I was made the OSI commander, exercise commander for the base exercise. And so I go over to coordinate with the commander of security police, Colonel, Bird Colonel. And I introduced myself, and he goes, "Oh, you must be new, a new arrival." And I said, "No, sir, I've been here about 2.5 years." And he says, "Well, I know all the guys at the detachment. How come I don't know you?" And I said, "Well, I'm chief of a special branch, and I'm not located with those guys." So that's kind of how, that would work. So yeah, there would be how it would work is, I haven't been there, so I don't know exactly how they do it, but how it would work is there'd be 1 or 2 OSI agents that everybody knew, oh, those are the OSI guys. But then there'd be the other guys like me, and even doing deeper in other specialties that you wouldn't know. They would have some what we call cover for action. They might be, OSI agent, but you might not know they were agents. They might be there under some other cover. So, but yes, as far as what you're asking, yes, there would be other people, doing much the same thing. And Rhinoceros, thank you. You're so generous this evening. My gosh, another a $10 super chat. The presumption of heaven and hell is so ingrained, whereas the individual is not scared of such matters because that experience is tailor-made by that individual. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. You mean with the NDEs? Yeah, it's really too bad what this medieval thing that we popularly know as hell. It's really too bad how that has been used to scare tactic, some folks. But just like the people who developed and applied MK Ultra in nefarious ways, there's always human beings that figure out how to play with the human mind, and come up with controls and things that work. Because, fear is something we all have, we all experience it. The only difference between some and others is you got to learn how to keep your fear under some type of control so you can continue to function. And you will be able to eliminate some fears in some ways, to some extent, but there's always going to be something, even in the coolest head, the bravest man or woman, that they're afraid of, that they experience fear, but you got to be able to keep that under control so you can function. Okay, anytime I've been in a dangerous situation, I wasn't exactly thrilled, but I was conditioned enough that I stayed level-headed and cool and survived whatever the situation was. And it's afterwards that you go, holy crap, I don't want to experience that again, but everyone's got their limits. But thank you again for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Lodivik, reread the Book of Mormon objectively. It is an anomaly and an enigma. Expect to find it confirmed by the Spirit of truth, if true. I have my witness was translated by the gift and power of God. Okay, but you have to understand, Lodivik, how that sounds. Okay? That's great that you got the faith in that, but you got to understand, objectively, that reads like personal platitudes. Okay? And again, I'm not saying that to be insulting or dismissive. I'm just saying, Spirit of truth. You got to ask yourself, what does that mean objectively? Did you literally see this power of God? It's that I have no doubt this is what you believe, what you are convinced of, but it does not pass an objectivity test. So that's why you are recommending that I read it myself. And that's the right suggestion. Okay? Raised Machine. The huge occult library at the Warburg Institute in London is now open to the public. Maybe worth a visit on a Europe trip. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. If I have to go over there, I'll keep that in mind. Folks, I personally think that and this is just my personal opinion, I'm sure people will disagree with it for their own reasons, but one of the reasons why I don't buy Yahweh as the Almighty God, one of the reasons, the concept of a jealous Almighty God. What does an Almighty have to be jealous of? Well, that's figurative, Walter. That's figurative. No, even so. To me, an almighty God wouldn't be jealous of your courting of other lesser gods. An almighty God would be patient, would be infinitely patient, and would not be jealous of those other ones and the attention you give them, because an almighty would say, he'll come around. She'll come around. And I know that's a weak ass example, but it's, I'm trying to express something better, and I'm not able to. And that's where I feel about all the doom and gloom and trying to activate fear. You must agree. You can't speak out. You can't criticize, or you're going to hell. You can't question, or that's the devil. Come on. Give me an effing break. You go into black magic and certain things where you're trying to communicate with bad entities, you are running a risk of meeting the devil. Okay? Simply questioning scripture, simply questioning and disagreeing with dogma, you're that's not the devil. Okay? So I just, yeah. I just don't buy dogma. Lulu301 says, Exodus 34:14, do not worship any other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. You mean the Lord whose name is jealous? Did you mean Yahweh or Jehovah? Okay, let me address that. So what? It's written in Exodus, but it's written in the scriptures. I mean, I'm going to be an asshole, not an asshole, but I'm trying to be objective. Okay, it's in that book, so it's true. Just ask the people who have a stake in you believing that book. They'll tell you, right? Go to a used car lot. Okay, the salesman will tell you that their cars are the best on the market. Just ask them. They'll tell you, oh yeah, our car's the best on the market. Don't get the other cars. You'll be steered wrong, no pun intended. Get our car, because our car is the real one. It's the authentic one. You see, objectively, you can't, you can use your scripture all day long to say, see, but that's the scripture that you believe in, that you choose to believe in. See, it's not really objective. So I already believe in God, okay? But imagine, this is like where the atheist comes from, is show me something objective. Show me something outside of that will convince me. See, just because the book says he's a jealous God. Well, look, Yahweh, which is the original name, is a title. It's not a proper name. Nothing's real. Like, I'm Walter, you're Lulu, Malia's Malia, and this God over here, he's Yahweh. No, Yahweh is a title. Okay, it's not a proper name. I'm not trying to be offensive or hurt anyone's feelings or anything, but it's Flying Brian, that's it, Bosley. I've had it with your pagan ways. You're dead to me. Everyone knows the tiki scriptures on the. Oh, Lou's saying the King James version has changed. Well, there you go. I mean, think of the KJV, the King James version. People I know who are biblical scholars told me stuff about King James himself, who commissioned that version of the Bible, that he would be excommunicated from your average fundamentalist evangelical church of today. Believe me, the Westboro Baptist Church would reject King James. I'm just saying. But okay, yeah, you're right. Scripture does change. So I believe what I believe because of my personal experience with it. I do not go out there and evangelize it. All I do is say, you got to have your own personal experience with it. And if your personal experience has convinced you, great. I'm the last person that's going to say to anyone, I'm speaking rhetorically here, not just to Lulu. That's great. However you come to it, that's your thing. Where I draw the line is, of course, no religion should force anybody to follow it. There you're getting into what pisses me off with fanatics and zealots, is this forcing, this conversion crap, convert or die, that I'm sorry. I would stand against that. If I were a member of a church and my own church was saying, we got to convert people, I'd say, piss off. No, I disagree. Well, then you won't be one of us. See ya. Ta-ta. Ciao. Arrivederci. Well, Lodjevic has a point here, Griffin Eagle. In Empire of the Wheel 3, the Nameless Ones, in my research for that, I did find where the most recent archaeology, it's looking like the archaeologists are back to the hypothesis that in Carthage they were sacrificing the children to Moloch, to the big burning Moloch statue. And that's because they discovered Tophets. So Lodjevic, it's looking like archaeology backs you up on that one, that in Carthage they were sacrificing children. Eric Hecker says, thank you kindly for your feedback this evening. The intelligence game is way more complex than most know or have experienced firsthand. What is going on at the South Pole is complex to consider. Be well. Thank you, Eric. Good to see you here. Thanks for coming. Flying Brian Myers. I think I'd like to convert to menthols because they're refreshing as everyone. You have a good point too, Griffin Eagle. That point has been brought up that, maybe it was just cremation, but there's some more details to it. Let me see. You're making me go to the bookshelf. Okay, Griffin. Let's take a look at this. Oh, Oh, shoot. Malia texted me several minutes ago. Oh, Malia made her own ramen. Oh, man, look at that. It looks so good. I'm jealous. Gosh darn it, Rudy. Okay, Griffin Eagle. Let's see. Oh, that's the theme to Mannix. I know that Malia misses, since I finished watching the Mannix series, Malia misses being made to watch episodes of Mannix with me. Here we go, Carthage. Suffer the Children. This, folks, open your Empire of the Whale hymnals, I kid, to chapter 9. On page 80, I bring up Carthage. In page 81, the subheading Suffer the Children, readers of Empire of the Whale 1 will recall the presence of Hecate amid the pantheon of Carthage, though it was the frightening image of Moloch that stood over the smoky horror of child sacrifice practiced by the Carthaginians in their veneration of and supplication to Tanit. Now they did venerate Tanit. One may ask if such tales are true. Did ancient Carthaginians, Phoenicians, truly cast their infant children into the flaming maw of the bronze god? I'm reading from my own book, Empire of the Whale 3, The Nameless Ones. And I asked the question, did ancient Carthaginians truly cast their infant children into the flaming maw of the bronze god? Almost as soon as modern archaeology began to find evidence of such practices, revisionists commenced with a campaign of dissent from that opinion. By the time the 20th century got rolling, the revisionist camp gained the majority, and it became politically correct in academia to assume that child sacrifice in ancient Carthage was a misinterpreted exaggeration on the part of biblically motivated archaeologists and imaginative writers. Most specifically blamed was Gustave Flaubert, with his 1862 novel, Salammbô. Hold that thought. Shit. Almost broke something glass. To show my commitment to you guys, I almost broke something glass on my shelves because I'm committed to you guys, and I'll go all out and risk many valuables, or just a cheap glass dolphin thing that I got at SeaWorld. Okay. Most specifically blamed for this, they burned their kids at Carthage, was Gustave Flaubert, with his 1862 novel, Salammbô, Flaubert. Let me see which, I'm going to drop my book. Let me see which edition this is. Oh, look at the artwork and the frontispiece. Wait, that's not the frontispiece. I apologize. This was gifted on December 13th, 1920 to the person who was probably the previous owner. Look at that. There's the frontispiece. Look at that. Ain't that cool? Look at that. This is Salammbô, translated from the French of Gustave Flaubert, with an introduction by Ben Ray Redmond, illustrated and decorated by Marlon Blaine. New York, the John Day Company. This is 1927. So I have a 1927 edition of Gustave Flaubert's Salammbô. Let me share with you an illustration from it, because this is just this is one of my favorite books in my collection. Oh, come on. Cooperate with me. Here we go. The elephants plunged into the phalanxes. Look at that. Look at that. Ain't that beautiful? So this novel is often blamed, or was often actually blamed by the revisionists for the belief that the Carthaginians killed their children. However, many scholars in recent decades have been convinced that Carthaginians did indeed sacrifice children based on evidence. But, as Griffin Eagle would say, there's no proof. What is the evidence of? As of this year, 2014, when this was written, as of 2014, the scientific evidence has tipped in favor of the unthinkable. It is what it is the next subheading. A Tophet was known in ancient times to be directly associated with child sacrifice and Moloch, or Tenet, in Carthage, the city built by the Phoenician legacy. It was described by the Israelites as a burning place of sacrifice, but during the rise of the Darwinist era scientific skepticism in the 19th century, this was refuted for decades. Scholars took the position that the child sacrifice stories were merely propaganda spread by adversaries and nothing more. That is, until archaeological discoveries in 1921 first provided evidence of human child sacrifice. Presently, with the continued discovery of evidence, there are as many, presently meaning 2014, almost 100 years, okay, after that initial discoveries. With the continued discovery of evidence, there are as many scholars acknowledging that the Carthaginians indeed sacrificed children as there are who deny it, and their numbers are growing, much to the chagrin of the naysayers. Griffin Eagle, your position's being outnumbered among the professionals. As of January 21st, 2014, Oxford archaeologists have stated that the evidence is overwhelmingly apparent that Carthage elites indeed sacrificed their own children. And let me give you the source on that, because I do document my sources. That comes from Carthaginians Sacrificed Own Children, Archaeologists Say, by Maeve Kennedy in The Guardian on 21 January 2014. That is from an article. How might this associate to our mystery, the associate blah, 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 blah. Okay. I talked about that in this book because Sechery believes that there was a Tophet in Illinois, ancient Tophet in Illinois, where the ancient Phoenicians came to mine copper, according to that theory. But yeah, so that's what I wrote in Empire of the Wheel 3, The Nameless Ones, and it is based on research. And as of 2014, there are more archaeologists that think that now 2014 was 10 years ago. If there's another updated source that refutes the research I did, I would like to I will definitely read that and acknowledge, if it's wrong. But I've read Flaubert's Salambo cover to cover, by the way. So, hold on. Malia, she's laughing at me being jealous of her dinner. No, the Phoenicians are attacked like woke usurpers attacks. Wait, what? The bigger picture, Walter, stand back, who are these people who write? Griffin Eagle, I'm aware of that. That you have to consider. But look, you can't you can't just, then if I find another source, then you'll say, well, who's that source? Who's behind them? And you it's like, okay, this whole trend in our community to question absolutely everything and don't don't. What that is that in itself is a tactic to, if you discourage people from accepting any source and they don't believe in anything, then they won't. It's the old thing, then they'll just give up on standing for anything. And that's how you conquer the minds of a population. So, but I know what you're saying. At the time, I did the research, and I didn't just look at that one source. I looked around, and at the time when I wrote that, I'm convinced that they were sacrificing children. Okay. Sorry, but that's one of the shitty things that have gone on in human history. And I know I'm the guy, Griffin Eagle, no disrespect intended. I'm the guy that says Napoleon was not a despot. He was not an antichrist. But I'm not the only one, nor was I the first one to ever say what I think about Napoleon. That's been going on for a very long time. That, wait a minute, Napoleon's not the asshole he's made out to be. But what I've seen of this, the Carthaginians, I'm presently convinced that, yeah, they were sacrificing children in that horrific way. Rhinoceros, thank you so much for another super chat. Oh my gosh. Are there any similarities between Hecate and Semjasa? Well, to be careful with the China. I don't think so. And just as I say that, okay. I'm speaking, let's keep this on just a pure intellectual level. Let's not bring in the emotion that comes with what we believe. Okay? What if, I'm asking this intellectually, I'm posing this intellectually. What if the story of these fallen angels is not what we've been raised to believe? What if it's just the narrative of a winning side of a conflict? Because when you think of what we're told, these fallen angels, they taught human beings how to build armies and armor and go to war. And, well, could they have been teaching human beings how to defend themselves? Might they have been in a conflict off this world and they fled a battle that was lost? They came here, and what they saw gave them the promise or hope that their pursuers that they knew were on the way, if they could bring the earth humanity that they found, the mankind that they found here, if they could bring us up technologically and knowledge-wise and everything, maybe they'd stand a chance in a conflict against their pursuers. And so they taught us these things. And then, of course, the pursuers arrived, and maybe that was the Yahweh and his entourage. Oh, no, I'm the God. Listen to us, not those guys. They're the bad guys. I'm the God. I'm your God. Those are fallen angels. They taught women how to put makeup on. This is an intellectual posing. Okay. I'm not the first to ask this. My understanding is Gnostics, this is an old Gnostic idea in some ways. But I would think that it's a fair question one should ask. If you're going to be objective about this story that people with a stake in the story being believed want you to accept and believe, seems to me like you need to ask some questions. Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, a Star Trek movie a lot of Star Trek fans hate. Well, whatever. Then I look at the Star Trek shit that they like, and I'm okay. Anyway, it's one of my favorite Star Trek movies, as my regulars know, because that's the one where allegedly God, Cybok is the prophet of God who's gathering the flock to go across space, to go to this planet to meet God. But oddly, God is trapped in something, or he needs a starship. Bring your starship to me. And even Spock, Bones, of course, Jim, you don't question God. And even Spock is like, oh, maybe my crazy brother Cyber, maybe this is God. But Kirk, God bless him, the real God, God bless him, he says, excuse me. Yes, my child. What does God need with a starship? And the God being says, who is this? Wait, you're God and you don't know who I am? What does God? You're God. What do you need with a starship? And what happens? Just like Yahweh, the Yahweh, zap! How dare you question me? He's a fucking narcissist. Everything we know about the character and the behavior is narcissism, folks. And what do narcissists do? They use fear and terror on you if you don't bow to their demands. Yes, I feel strongly that way. But what happens in that story? They realize that this God, supposed God, is just an alien who's trapped and wants the starship to escape his prison. I'm telling you, Star Trek V has more food for thought. And when they're on their way, Cybok, the prophet of this God, is getting everybody to be a collectivist. Oh, be assimilated. Give your pain to me. Give your pain to me. Kirk, again, says, no, my pain is my own. I need my pain. It makes me who I am. Right? Now, the collectivists would say, well, that's his ego. Captain Kirk is not a good example. Fuck off. The hell he's not. He's a fine example. And that is a good pop culture way of, making a point. Hold on, folks. It's time for me to take my pill. Because I'm 60 and I'm on meds. I take hydroxychloroquine for rheumatoid arthritis, so not those kind of meds. Be right back. Oh, the irony. Oh, the irony. Remember when who got in a lot of trouble for saying hydroxychloroquine would take care of COVID? Oh my God, he's an idiot. Blah, 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 blah. The vaccine that was intended to protect me against COVID gives me essentially rheumatoid arthritis. The rheumatologist told me this. And what does he prescribe to me but hydroxychloroquine? Anyway, let's go back to this. So, again, you're asking, are there any similarities between Hecate and Semjasa? In that general way that I'm trying to very clunkily share, that would be the example that came to mind. But I think before anyone embraces. Folks, there's been a lot of religions in the history of mankind, okay? Even going back to the days that aren't recorded. And guess what? Every single one has said, this is the one. This is the truth, the eternal truth. And we're talking about religions that have come and gone. But the nature of religious belief with people is so rooted in their emotions, with their fear and other things, not just fear. It's not all fear-based, but it's so rooted in emotions that people get really, torqued up about it, to the point where most people, the average person, will turn off objectivity and not ask the question. My opinion, personally, my experience with this, whatever it is, to me, an almighty God doesn't get pissed off for 5 seconds about how I question particular scriptures. I don't see an almighty God getting pissed off about that at all. I see it as, oh, okay, some of them are using their fucking heads. You know, I'm not out there burning churches. I'm not out there saying praise the devil. Okay. I'm not out there, victimizing religious people. I'm sharing my opinion and I'm telling you what my process is. Okay. And neither am I going to be superstitious that when the car salesman at this particular lot is just trying to convince me, if you don't get one of my cars are the ones, they're the real cars. If you get any other car, you're going to drive straight into hell, right off the cliff. I'm sorry, I'm going to look at that as, says you, who has a stake in selling me that particular car. So I'm not superstitious about what the priesthood tells me. Because the atheists have a good point. The zealots, okay, will tell you, think of the good it does. If it weren't for this lodge of God, and if it weren't for this particular book or scripture, people would be awful. So you're telling me that there's nothing inherent in the human psyche, no sense, no moral compass, without going to church and without reading a particular book? To that I say bullshit. Because I guarantee you there are atheists out there that are fine human beings, that are fine moral people. Okay? So this bullshit that you wouldn't have a moral compass without that system, that process, is bullshit. I quit going at 12 years old. And I went on to, I can totally, I pass backgrounds. I do not have a criminal record. I do not willy-nilly go around hurting my I still believe in God and stuff. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is, I don't need their private lodge, hokey pokey, club system to either know God or have a moral compass. And this is a philosophical discussion. Don't confuse this for religious discussion. I'm speaking philosophically, okay? And answering the question. So thank you, Rhinoceros, for the $5 super chat. I don't want to say the wrong S chat. Okay, let me, folks. And folks, I hope we can I hope I can discuss these things without anyone feeling personally offended. Because I said, let's have an intellectual moment. Let's detach the emotions. Okay. Flying Brian Myers. Oh my God, Star Trek 5. Who are you? Now you have to be taught a lesson. Star Trek 5 was directed by Shatner. Yep. Seriously, though, pain or our scars, which are reminders to do the right thing. Yes. Yes. We learn how to be better people and how to appreciate others through that, the pain of our mistakes or the pain of our losses. It matures us. It's how we become if you just hand over your pain and you become a lotus eater, oh, everything's wonderful. Everything's wonderful. I'm a child. I don't have to worry. Right? My scars and pain are the proof of life. Suffering and pain is misunderstood by the vast majority of the general population. You do indeed need your pain and experience to be alive, in my opinion. Yes, and you know what? My gosh, about 14, it was 14 years ago when I had kind of the personal epiphany that, suffering, really understood it. Suffering is part of why we're here. And whatever you pray to, whoever you pray to, my personal position is you're not supposed to ask for things for yourself. You're supposed to think about others. C.W. Chan, you're speaking like a person on the street corner. You mean a pimp? So, oh my gosh, David Paff. I've tried calling you. I'll try calling you tomorrow, David Paff. I've tried calling you a couple of times. We're going to make the connection on the phone over the weekend. Yes, David, definitely. Okay, folks, 3 hours. My producer tells me, wait a minute. Malia, I've been on for almost 4 hours, 3 hours and 47 minutes. So good Lord, this was a marathon. And CW, oh, him, you call. Next year we got to get CW to the Nimzicon, even if it's just to hang out. Oh, the gadfly. Okay, folks, I want to thank all of you in the live chat for being here and hanging out and enduring this marathon 3 hour and 48-minute live stream that I did. It's been a long time. I hope you guys are okay with a philosophical based conversation on religion and stuff. Again, go to walterbosley.com if you're interested in any of my books. And thank all of you who gave the super chats. Really, thank you. That's very, very generous, and really appreciate it. And again, you guys have a good night, and we'll see you. You're probably going to see little glimpses of mine and Malia's birthday next Wednesday, and then Todd will be California with a special interview, a guest on Thursday. And in the meantime, you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.